Yes, Curtis Jenkins, please. Long distance calling.
Thank you. One moment.
Hello?
Hi, Mr. Jenkins?
Yes.
Listen, I'd like to identify myself. My name is David Lifton, and I'm calling you from New York City. I'm with the Macmillan Publishing Company. They produce textbooks. You probably have heard of them.
Right.
Okay, I'll tell you why I'm calling. And it represents the culmination of just an enormous amount of work on my part to even find you. And I finally kept getting no answers, and I said, well, this couldn't be the right guy, but then I guess it is. We're doing a book. The Macmillan Company is doing a book to be published in 1981. And that's been my life for the last number of months, interviewing people and getting documents together for this book. And it's about November 22nd, 63. And we have made a real effort to contact people who were, I would guess you'd call them the extras on the stage set of history,
Right.
people who had little functions and who did their job, and just to speak to them and to talk to them. And I've spoken with all the people, or almost all the people. You're about one of the last 4 people I couldn't reach on duty at the National Naval Medical Center on the night of November 22nd. And in fact, until recently, I didn't even have your correct spelling or your name or anything, because we had to wait until this report of the House committee came out to get information. And finally, we had the last few people, and I've been running around chasing after these people, trying to locate them, and I have succeeded in doing that. And you were one of the last people, like I say, on the list. And I wanted to know if I could just speak to you for a little bit. We are not doing a book critical of the Warren Report or anything like that. What we are doing is putting together, you might say, like reminiscences of people who were just what it was like to do their thing on November 22nd, to be on duty, whether it was over at Andrews Air Force Base or whatever their job was. And we've got probably over 200 people. And you were one of the laboratory technologists. And we've interviewed most of the people in the room, as a matter of fact, including the doctors. And I came up with, we had your name, and it was just a devil at the time trying to find you. But I finally did. And here you are in Canyon. I guess I never would have dreamed of it, Canyon Lake, Texas. I'd never heard of this.
It's a little community north of San Antonio.
But you mean you're a part of San Antonio then?
No, actually, we're separate. We're Canyon Lake, but we're about 30 miles north of San Antonio, between San Antonio and Austin.
Well, I reached one of your relatives in Jackson. He said you had gone to school there, and I'm a little bit confused. Are you a medical doctor?
No. I was in medical school there the last time when I was interviewed by the Committee on Assassinations.
Yeah.
Okay, I was in medical school there in the pathology program. And I had recently left that, taken a position with my old company.
Oh, I see. So what kind of work do you do now?
I'm working for a medical electronics company.
Is that Coulter?
Yes.
C-O-L-T-E-R?
C-O-U-L-T-E-R.
Oh, okay, C-O-U-L. Now, for some reason, I thought they were... You see, one of the things I did trying to find you was to just ask Coulter, and I called Coulter, but Coulter is in Massachusetts, so I figured that couldn't be you, because they're over in, in Massachusetts. I guess they have a branch that you work for?
I work out of the Houston branch.
I see, okay.
We're in the national company.
Oh, I see. See, what is it, medical instrumentation?
Right. Basically, laboratory instrumentation, hematology, chemistry, etc.
I see. Well, my old line of work used to be, trained as an engineer, and my old line of work was, work with the North American Rockwell Company and the instrumentation laboratory on the Apollo project. But this is many years ago. I see. Okay, no, I knew Coulter, and I associated with Massachusetts. Anyway, that's the situation, and I was wondering if I could just ask you a few simple questions, and if you have any hesitation at all as to the questions I ask, but I don't think you will. I think you'll find them rather innocent, and they're not, I'm not trying to invade your privacy or anything.
Well, I understand that. My biggest problem is if you could have read the manuscript to the Assassinations Committee, is that there's some controversy as to what I felt like I saw and what has been published and made knowledge and so forth in the past. And my feelings are this: I disagree with the things that that people have said. There are things that I saw, and relating to some other experiences while I was in the service that I don't feel like could possibly have happened. There's things in the Warren Commission that I did not see, and it is quite possible that I didn't remember them, but
Yeah.
there are some other things too. I hesitate, and I have not. I made a policy not to talk to anyone on the telephone about any of these things. Not even the people who interviewed me. As a matter of fact, I was interviewed in a congressman's office because that was the only place that I would talk to him.
Why was that, by the way?
Well, it was just my own feelings. I had to make sure to identify them as to who they were, because I at one time had specific orders not to discuss it.
Yeah, but they told us on the House committee that letters were sent out, and that's all been lifted. You know, that's really just history now.
Well, that's apparently they did not tell you what the letter said. The letter says that you were free to discuss it with such and such, which the letters are irrelevant right now, all right?
Yeah.
The thing is that I would and have considered trying to put this in my own words because I wanted to have it down in facts for history.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, that's the kind of project we're doing, by the way. I mean, that's exactly what we're doing, and we have a number of different accounts, and I'm in fact collating them and correlating them and doing the best I can. It may surprise you, we do not have whatever you told them now. You know, your transcript of your interview has not been published or available or anything like that. That's true of all the witnesses. Why that is the case, I don't know. But what they've done is they simply referred to you once in the report. In fact, you're really only mentioned once in a footnote. You're on a list of names who were present, and your correct spelling is there, thank God, because otherwise it was a lot of difficulty locating you. But other than that, there's only one paragraph where your name comes up. And so I really don't know what you told them or how you might agree or disagree with what the accepted theory is or anything like that. I want you to know that. I don't have any such document. I'm sure there's a steno transcript of whatever you said, if you permitted. I mean, did they steno you or did they tape you or something?
No, I was interviewed by two individuals.
And Donald Purdy and
a Kelly.
Kelly?
Right.
Kelly, I don't know Kelly. I know Mark Flanagan.
This guy was an older guy named Kelly.
Yeah. And they just took notes?
Well, basically they took notes, and that was it. They were just. I don't really know what they did. I know I spent an awful lot of time.
Yeah, you see, you could really, you could be very valuable to my project in any way, and I certainly would like to be able to say to my editor that I had at least a minimal conversation with you, and just a few questions I have, and then you could tell me how you feel, because one of the things I know is that if you really wanted to go into this in a much deeper way, I suppose that they could arrange for me to fly down there. We haven't done that. I've done most of my work by mail and on the phone. Because there's just so many people involved. You could probably understand, you get involved with, it's a tremendous housekeeping function to keep track of where people have moved. I mean, tracking down, I probably put 10 hours into finding you. I mean, scattered over several weeks and calling up, I don't know how many Jenkins I've called in how many cities. And, of course, you can understand, because a person moves around, and 15 years later, you really get an appreciation for they move on in their lives and they do different things,
See, I moved probably once every 18 months since I was in the service. But,
could I just tell you what the kind of questions that I wanted to ask you, and you could get a feeling for what I had in mind?
Sure.
Okay. The questions I wanted to ask were, first of all, where were you when you first learned that the president would be shot, and how did you find yourself assigned, to be on hand and play a role that night?
Yeah, I was in class. I was in the medical technology program there at Bethesda, and I was in class that afternoon. I was in a serology class. And being in the Navy, the petty officer that was in charge of my group came in. He was also a friend of mine and told the president that I'd just been shot. He relatively thought he was joking. And then the instructor came in and told us, yes, that's true, everybody leave, with the exception of the two people who have the duty. And that was myself and my cousin.
Paul O'Connor?
Right.
Yeah.
We were told to go to the morgue, which was our normal duty type thing. We assisted with autopsies whenever we had the duty. We were not told at that time, what was happening. even though we suspected. And that's basically the reason we were there. It just happened to be our duty.
I see. So you were in the morgue room. You mean you were there when the body arrived?
Yes, we did the preliminary.
Right. Well, okay. What I was going to ask next is, were you in the room when the body arrived itself?
Yes.
Okay. How did it come in? What conveyance did it come in on?
I mean, as to how did it come to the morgue?
Yeah. What did you see? You're inside the room and
Okay, all we saw is brought in on a gurney.
on a gurney.
Right. We were not allowed outside. I mean, we did not know what type of ambulance it came in by or whatever.
I see. And what kind of a container was it in?
It was in as I can remember, it was just in a regular coffin type thing.
Okay. Would you call it a ceremonial coffin or a shipping casket?
Well, I would probably say it'd be close to the shipping casket.
A shipping casket.
Right.
Did you actually participate in opening that box?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I think, as close as I can remember, we did open it, and we did take the body out.
Is we, you, and Paul?
Myself and Paul, and I think there were a couple of honor guards with him or something like that.
I see. And when you took the body out, when you opened that casket, what kind of a thing was it in? Was it just naked, or was it wrapped in something?
As far as I can remember, I think it was probably, and again, this is a long time ago. I can't remember if. I'm trying to remember whether.
Because after you search your recollection, and I want you to do that, I'm going to tell you what Paul told me, and I'm going to run that by you, and I want your reaction to it. So you first tell me what you recollect independently.
It seems as if. It seems that I can't really remember. To me, it seems like as if there might have been some clothing on it, but I really don't know if that was before or after, because the thing that sticks in my mind is the fact is that one of the legs was shorter than the other one, and there was a large scar on the back. It's quite possible it could have been wrapped in some sheets.
Okay, Paul said, and I have no reason to doubt this, but it's just an interesting detail. He said it was in a body bag. In other words, a regular old rubber or canvas body bag that has a zipper going from head to toe, and that he personally unzipped the body bag and took the body, and he with the others, I guess that includes you, took the body out of the body bag, which was inside the shipping casket.
Well, I don't really remember that as such. That type of detail I would think would stick, but I can't say that it's not, whether it's true or not true. There are certain details that I do remember about the situation, but those are type of as I think back on it, But Paul and I both were there.
Yeah, right. No, I understand that. Now, you said you'd sometimes do the preliminaries, and one of the preliminaries, I know what an autopsy is, to remove the brain. I mean, do you sometimes do that, or is that not what you mean by preliminary?
No, we usually do that. At that time, we did. We did the skull cap and so forth. We did not do this one.
Okay, now that's right. Now, he told me that. Could you tell me what your impression was? I mean, apparently the wound was extraordinarily severe.
Yes, it was.
And you did not do it on this occasion?
No, we did not. But, I was standing less than, I was standing about at his shoulders, and they were doing the cavities.
Yeah, but I mean, when you came to the brain business, would you say what kind of brain tissue would you say, what would you describe the condition of the cranial vault in this case?
I would say that it was fairly well macerated.
Lacerated. Was there any brain left in there?
Yeah, there was some, but it was the extent that probably I would say the parietal and occipital section on the right side of the head it was a large gaping area, even though I think as we put it back together that most of the skull, the bone itself was there. It had just been crushed and kind of blown apart toward the rear.
Yeah.
That was, those are the areas where I get into the difference with with the other people.
Yeah, well, you're talking about direction, but I want to ask you something. They said, I mean, Paul said that they didn't even have to take the brain out. Well, I'll tell you the words he said. He said there was hardly any brain tissue in there. The brain had been blown completely out, and that there was very little brain tissue left, if any.
Well, I think that's an exaggeration because, as I remember, we did remove the brain and that we did infuse it, in a normal manner. Now, part of the brain had been macerated and there was some brain tissue going, I'm sure. But and the wound was quite extensive. But as well as I can remember, we had a small bucket type situation set up where we could actually infuse the brain through some of the veins in the brain itself. And as I remember, we did infuse that brain.
When you say infuse, I mean, I know I know the manual, the procedure for taking a brain out, but I don't know what the word infuse. You mean you usually cut it and put it in formaldehyde, don't you?
No, our procedure there was not that. What we did was that we took the bundle branch area.
The who?
We took the veins that are underneath the brain.
Sure.
And what we did is we put injected a needle into this and allowed formaldehyde to flow through the brain.
Right.
And then put the brain in a bucket of formaldehyde. That way it firmed it up both internally and externally. Sometimes whenever you cut a brain, you put it in formaldehyde,
right,
it gets soft on the interior of it, or the internal part of it.
So in other words, you infuse the interior first?
Well, both. What we're doing, you're actually doing it both ways. You're filling all the blood vessels that exist in the brain with formaldehyde and infuse it out from there, and then you also, in the same token, if I can remember right, we hung this in a kind of a hammock type thing across a stainless steel bucket with formaldehyde in it, and we infused the brain. That was the procedure we used, and I'm fairly sure that we used that procedure on this brain. Again, like I said, this is the recollection that I have of it.
Yeah.
But again, since I don't remember the body bag, it could be. I do remember. The clothing could have been after they dressed him. I knew that there were some comments made about the expense of the suit and the shoes and so forth, and that one shoe was a special made shoe and things of that nature.
Yeah.
I remember that. In the Warren Commission report, the body description, scars, things of that nature, organ weights and so forth are my handwriting.
Yeah. In that diagram.
Yes.
I see.
So, one of the big controversies I had was the fact is that I could not remember that particular sheet was the sheet that we had used. I had in my mind that it was another particular type. So again, I could have been in error there because I have to admit the handwriting in the Warren Commission report does look like my handwriting.
Yeah, Dr. Boswell said that there were two face sheets, and he doesn't know what happened to the other one.
Well, okay, now I was not aware of that, but the other one was the one that I had visualized in my mind all the time, which was a different particular or a different type of setup for body identification.
How did it differ? Because we could actually get a copy of it from the Navy Medical Records Center, if I knew what kind you mean.
Well, that was the controversy that Bertie and Kelly were having, was that when I described it to them and drew it on a piece of paper, then they were unable to find a form of that nature. So again, you have to understand is that I have done this type of work since I came out, and two other occasions, especially when I was in the program in pathology and things of that nature. So I could not at that time, as I tell them that I was not interjecting some other form that I'd seen this, but I was almost sure that the forms were different. This one that apparently that's in use at the Bethesda Naval Center now, or the one that is used with the Warren Commission, has a small area of the body on the back side with organ weights at the top and something of that nature. I did not remember that. I remembered the organ weights, but I thought that the organ weights were at the side, and there was almost a full-length frontal view on one side, turn it over, and there was a back view on the other side. Since then, I've tried to contact the other people that I work for to find out what form they used, and have had no luck in that.
Oh, I see. Let me ask you, in removing the brain, did you have to do any sawing of the skull in this case?
Yes, the skull was sewn, the thing I'm remembering is that I'm not sure that they removed the skull cap that they had to remove the skull cap whenever they removed the brain in the normal sense. That may be what Paul is talking about when he's saying there's very little brain left. There would have been maybe a third to a quarter of the brain would have been macerated and was kind of a jelly-type substance, which happens during trauma. But I can't remember him having to take a saw and remove the skull cap. I think that's what the brain was removed through the cavity.
That's exactly what Dr. Fink testified to under oath. He said the hole was so large that Humes had told him that it was not necessary to do the normal surgical procedure you do when you remove a brain.
Yeah, that's the way I remember it. And like I said, the brain that was, whether it was a full brain or not, it certainly wasn't. I can agree. We can look at the weights and find out.
Yeah, sure. But let me ask you this. Whose job was it to actually do things like cutting the spinal cord, which is one of the last steps you do when you remove a brain?
Okay. All this was done by Dr. Boswell, Dr. Humes, and the colonel from...
Well, Fink, yeah, but he arrived after the brain was out already, he says.
Who?
Dr. Fink, Colonel Fink from the Armed Forces Institute of Pathology. He got, in other words, Boswell and Humes are the only two of the three doctors present during the brain business. And I was just wondering...
I'm not sure that's true.
Oh, you think they might have removed the brain after Fink was present? Because he said he was... Well, I'm just telling you what he said. I don't know. That's what he testified to.
Well, the thing that I see there is the fact is that, as I remember, of course, we virtually started with our normal procedure, which was to tag the body with the tag, so forth. We logged in the autopsy number, so forth. We were not allowed to put a name beside it. In the log, I noticed the next morning before I left, someone had written in the upper right-hand corner CNC.
What's that mean?
Commander-in-Chief, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It was not a legible type thing. It was just kind of penciled in small letters up to the right. And
why weren't you allowed to put a name in? I don't understand.
We were told not to.
Who told you that?
The people there, Commander Boswell and Humes, and there were some other individuals there that I never knew who they were.
Do you know, of course, Admiral Galloway?
Yes, I know Admiral Galloway.
Did he tell you not to put a name down?
No, Dr. Galloway. I don't remember ever speaking to Dr. Galloway.
I see. I
just remember him being there, but I don't remember ever speaking to him.
Can you just tell me, since I'm sort of a sophomore in this, what's the significance of not being allowed to put a name down? I mean, what do you see as a significance?
What I saw then was that I felt like they didn't want an identification, for anyone to get a hold of the book, because at that time, it was a very type of secretive thing. He was not even, no one was supposed to know that he was even there.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, they went to the extent of bringing I never knew for sure if this was what they did, but it was an unusual procedure where we had a lieutenant colonel or a major or something of that nature from the Air Force that was to be buried at Arlington that was brought into the morgue and stayed overnight in the morgue. And in the morning, whenever the caskets went out, I think his went out first. I always felt like that was probably a ploy to, for the people who were surrounded the medical center and things of that nature.
Let me ask you this. You mean so they wouldn't know which ambulance?
Right, carried the body.
Well, okay, that's a way. But, there are pictures, Associated Press and UPI photographs of Jacqueline riding in that ambulance with the body when it goes to the White House the next morning. I mean, that's a what?
Yeah, that's not something that I was told that she was there that night, but I never saw her.
Yeah.
See, I never left the morgue except for one time when I went upstairs to get a specimen jar, and at that time I had an escort.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, do you know anything about the security measures used to bring in the body? In other words, to hide the fact that it was coming in or anything like that?
No, because the first time I saw the body, it was inside the morgue itself. It was brought in on the gurney, as I said.
Yeah.
It was in a coffin type thing. Okay, it could have been a shipping coffin or whatever that. It was not a really ornamental type thing. It was a kind of a plain casket. But
what color was it?
as far as I remember, I can't really answer that because I'm colorblind. But I think it was kind of a brown.
No kidding, you're colorblind?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
But it would have been. It was kind of a brown type thing. It was not, as you said, not very ornamental or anything.
I see. So in other words, if I have, because there's several caskets that night, one they used to bury him in, and there's not, in other words, it's not a big bronze shipping, excuse me, a big bronze ceremonial casket with handles and everything.
No, it's not. The coffin that, and again, these are details I never thought about, but you know, I think if I remember correctly, the one that left the next day that he was in was a black ornamental type thing with bronze work on it.
Well, as a matter of fact, well, I don't know, I've never seen it, but listen, we all saw it on TV when he was buried. It was a mahogany coffin,
Yeah.
a very heavy. It was over, I think it was about 800 pounds.
Well, it was this one, as far as I can remember, was the black. It was darker than the one that came in, and it was, like I said, was ornamental type.
Okay, and it was not white bronze, double-walled, hermetically sealed, or anything like that.
No, not that I remember.
Let me ask you this. I have a report in which when they take the x-rays, they say that everyone is asked to leave the room during the x-rays. Can you help me on that at all? Do you know what room everybody was asked to go to, and do you remember being asked to leave the room for x-rays?
No, I was not. I was not asked to leave the room when they made x-rays. As a matter of fact, I held some of the plates for them.
Oh, really? You mean for Dr. Ebersol?
For all the x-rays that were taken that night.
Okay, but I mean, did you know Ebersol, Dr. Ebersol, the radiologist?
No, I don't know. The gentleman that took the x-rays was a third-class x-ray tech.
What's his name?
I don't know him.
If I give you a name, could you tell me if it rings a bell?
No, because I didn't even know him.
Oh.
He was in another department. But he took the x-rays. I helped him place the plates. I held some of the plates for him. They were trying to find some metal fragments in the chest cavity, which they never found. As far as, and you know, there was some temperament about that.
What do you mean temperament?
Well, there were some words and so forth that kind of uttered because you know they felt they were almost positive there were fragments in the chest cavity, and they never could pick them out on X-ray because of the wound in the back of his neck.
You mean the front of the neck?
No, the one in the back of his neck. I think the one in the front of the neck was the trach.
That's right. No, I'm sorry. That's right. That's what I mean. Well, in other words, the point is they had a hole, but they couldn't find metal.
Right.
You know, I've heard. You know, we've got a lot about that. We've heard. You know, there's been a lot of details about that.
That was the thing that the Warren Commission and so forth, and I was thoroughly grilled on with the fact is that I remember Dr. Humes probing that with his little finger, and then using a probe and trying to get to extend the wound or trace the wound in the chest cavity. It never was done because you could see the probe, you could see his finger through the chest wall, but it never entered the pleural. And then that was when they were looking for the metal fragments in the chest and things of that nature. The X-rays for the head, and I never saw any or heard any discussion of that, but I do remember that there was a discussion there.
When you say a third-class man took it, I'm just wondering. Ebersol, is the radiologist, and he talks about the role he played. So I'm just trying to dope out in my own mind the relationship between you and what you witnessed and him. You say a third-class guy took it, but wasn't it supervised by a radiologist?
The supervision, where the X-rays were to be taken and things of that nature, as far as I can remember, were being directed by the lieutenant colonel or from the Army, who was supposedly, I found out later, was a specialist on
forensic pathology.
Right. Well, they told me he was a specialist in wartime wounds.
Oh, wound ballistics, yes.
Right.
That's correct. Well, that's true. But that, Fink makes a big distinction.
I now kept talking while I flipped over the cassette.
First 3 X-rays, and then the X-rays that he demanded that they take after he arrived, and they had this problem of finding a bullet. So which ones were you in on both of these groups of X-raying?
Yes, I never left the lab. I went in about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I left the next morning about 9 o'clock.
And you don't ever remember being asked till the next morning at 5?
The next morning at 9.
Oh, you stayed up all night?
Yes.
How come? I mean, what happened after 5 that you'd still be up?
I had to clean up the morning.
Oh, my God. Oh, I see. In other words, and you went to bed at 9 o'clock in the morning?
Yes, what happened actually was the fact is after we got it cleaned up, we were told to wait till 9 o'clock for Captain Stover, who was the commander and commanding officer of the medical school there.
Right.
And we were taken to his office, and we were told verbally that we were to discuss this with no one, not even our immediate family, so forth, under penalty of, such and such, and that orders would be issued officially subsequently.
Right.
Which they were.
What was your impression at the time as to why they were, if I may use the word, so uptight? I mean, what do you think the problem was?
The problem were not really us as the medical people doing the thing. The thing uptight was the fact is that I felt like that the other people running around in civilian clothes and so forth had a pre-concluded idea, and that they were, because it was not panning out, there were a lot of animosities running around, to be quite frank with you.
Yeah.
There were very short tempers and things of that nature that were not obvious, but they were rumbling type thing.
You mean tensions?
Yes, that you kind of feel.
You mean, yeah.
And I felt like there were a lot. There also felt like there was some animosity might be directed toward the people doing the autopsy, in the sense of, Dr. Humes, Dr. Boswell, and Dr. Fink.
In other words, you think they had a pre-concluded idea that all the shots came from the rear?
Well, I think that's probably one of them. And plus, the fact is that I think they probably were looking around for exonerating things, that things that they could not have defended against, or things of that nature.
Things that they what?
I think that probably the people who were guarding him, and things of that nature, they was just all these people. I felt like, and I was told later that a lot of these people were with, with the Secret Service, CIA, and the FBI.
Right.
And that there was a scuffle behind me that I later found out from Mr. Kelly was that someone was taking pictures and someone took the camera away.
Yeah, that's true. I know that guy, Floyd Reeby.
Yeah, well, see, I didn't know who he was. I didn't know who he was with and so forth.
Yeah.
And that was one of the scuffles, and there was some type of controversy about the captain of the honor guard or something. I don't know.
Well, I've spoken to him. He was wounded in Vietnam. His name is Sam Bird. What kind of scuffle did he get into?
I don't remember a scuffle per se. I'm just saying there was some type of temperament there. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
It could have had something to do with something. But again, too, like I said, I had my back to that area.
Yeah.
I was there at the table, virtually handing instruments, getting things, running sections, things of this nature.
Yeah. You mentioned before your petty officer. Who is he, by the way?
Bill Lynch.
Bill Lynch?
Right.
And he was petty officer for the medical school or for the center?
No, he was my class petty officer.
Oh, did he play a role in the autopsy?
No,
He wasn't even in the room, was he?
no. There were only two of us in the room, myself and Paul.
Yeah, because I've never seen Bill Lynch's name on a.
No, Bill was he was the one that you asked me when I first found out.
Right.
And Bill was the one that came in and told me he'd heard it.
Incidentally, during any time in the autopsy, when they opened up the coffin, the hole we call a tracheotomy?
Yes.
Was that sutured when you opened the coffin?
No.
Did you suture it, or did anybody suture it during the course of the autopsy?
I'm sure it was sutured before the body was closed, because, that's the procedure.
To suture a hole like that?
Oh, everything has to be sutured.
You mean even like the little entry wounds in the back have to be sutured?
I would think they probably put it. Well, I don't know about the entry wounds because it was so small, but something like the trach would have been sutured to keep. Well, first thing, to keep it from seeping.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sure. Oh no, I understand that. You mean it's part of the cosmetics for the funeral?
Yes.
I see.
As a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, they sutured his right eyelid. Hold it down. I think it was the right one. Might have been a right one or left, but I think it was the right one.
Okay, let me ask you, from your recollection then, if you were recollecting this, who would you say supervised the X-raying, since you apparently don't remember, Dr. Ebersole, but you do...
The supervision directions that I saw were coming from the Army officer, which was...
Okay, then I would have to reply that the part of the X-raying that you saw, that you're recollecting right this moment, is the part that he stresses when he was really going into a very detailed search for a bullet, and they were doing a lot of X-rays.
Yeah, that was basically in the chest cavity.
Yeah.
The metal fracture.
But they couldn't find any.
No, they did not.
Okay, well, he said he didn't arrive till well after the brain had been taken out and everything. Now, I don't know what to make of that, but that is his position. That's what he says in the record.
Well, as I said before, you have to understand that at that time, I was a very young man.
How old are you now?
I'm 37.
Yeah.
And I was there was nothing in there. You know, there was nothing to buffer me from the next guy was a commander. You know, that type of situation.
Yeah.
But again, too, is that, a lot of the things I did not, you know, like I said, I don't remember details of significant details of that I can attest to or about bringing the body in. I remembered various things. I remember we did admit to the morgue that night a baby from one of the units. I also remember that there was a picture taken of that, I think, through a hallway door that I saw later in Look magazine.
Life magazine.
Life magazine or something of that nature that insinuated that was the body, but that was not the body.
That was a baby.
That was a baby.
Yeah, in William Manchester's book, he has a piece of dialogue where somebody asked about it, and they said it was a baby born dead or something.
Yeah, it was stillborn of that nature.
I see. Let me ask you, did you hear any talk that night, and I know you didn't witness anything like this, but did you hear any talk about that body coming in by helicopter as a security measure?
No, I don't. It's well possible, though. I mean, it's very possible it could have come in, because as I said before, I don't know how it came. The first time I was associated or even saw the body, it was coming in the door of the morgue.
And who was escorting it? Do you remember?
There was the one that I remember is a lieutenant that was tall, thin man with color. He was a color guard because or maybe he was a captain. He could have been Army.
Yeah.
But
You said color guard?
well, you know, the honor guard type thing.
Honor guard.
Is right. He was the one I remember. There were some people in civilian clothes that came in with it, but I have no idea what they were, or who they were, or anything like that. As a matter of fact, I paid absolutely no attention.
Yeah. Were some of the honor guard black officers or black people?
I did not see anything else.
I see. I see. And as for removing the brain, you don't know, if I was trying to find out or actually identify who it was that cut the spinal cord and did that procedure, you would not have an independent recollection as to who, if it was done at all?
I would think probably most of the actual surgical work itself was done by Dr. Boswell.
I see. By the way, why is that? Why not Humes, for example? I'm just curious.
Well, Humes is protocol more or less than anything else. You know, Humes was the director of the laboratory. Dr. Boswell was the assistant director of the laboratory. Humes was the commander at that time, I believe, and Boswell was lieutenant commander, so it would have been Humes' ultimate responsibility if anything had gone wrong. He did assist, but as I remember, most of it was done by Dr. Boswell.
See, and that's very interesting because, you know, when they testify, it's Humes who testifies as if he's carrying the burden and Boswell's his assistant. But the way you see it, it's Boswell, because he's chief of pathology, who's doing the work, and Humes is sort of the assistant?
Well, Humes, they were both there. The reason, again, like I said, is that the way I felt about at the time was the fact is that Boswell was the underling, so he was doing the physical work and was basically being directed by Humes.
I see.
You know, it would be a very fine line there, as I say. But if you know, I don't remember specifically who would have. And another thing too is that the spinal cord would have been removed. I'm sure.
Yeah, sure.
You know, so that would have been. You know, that could have been occurred at the time of removal of the brain.
Let me ask you this. Did you participate in making any tissue sections? Or take...
No, the sections were not made that night. All we did is that whatever we saved were put in specimen jars.
But did you participate in saving specific things?
Yes, there were some specimens taken. I think that there was I remember about 4 specimen jars.
Yeah.
But I don't remember specifically what went in those. The publications of paperwork and so forth that there were in, I can't remember where I saw them on television or whatever, that were strange to me. They were, you know, there were some, you know, some paperwork that was lost that I know that was done.
Like what?
Just like, you know, completion of description, autopsy descriptions as to, well, one, the sheet that I feel like I distinctly remember that was filled out was a further description of body markings, things, head wounds, stuff of that nature.
You mean a more detailed description of the head wound?
Yes.
You mean one which would list in words like occipital, parietal, whatever?
No, it would be yes, a description. As a matter of fact, if I can, and again too, is you have to understand that I'm trying to remember this. 50. I think, if I remember correctly, there was a sheet
Yeah.
with a form on it. Okay,
Yeah.
a body form that had the headroom, and that was drawn in, and that there was a discussion or a description of that headroom written on the side. Okay.
Right.
Of that wound, there was a discussion as to the neck wound, which at that time I kind of, when I saw the neck wound right away, I felt like it was a trach.
Right.
Because there were also two markings on the chest that looked like electrode attachments for a defibrillator.
Right.
Okay. Those type of things I remember. So it never even crossed my mind until I read it somewhere later that supposedly that trach was an exit wound for the wound for the entry wound in the back of the neck.
Yeah, well, the problem is that they did, in fact, have a wound that they made the trach through at the other end of the line. But Lon asked me, did it look like a trach to you?
It looked like a trach to me, yeah.
It did.
Yeah.
It wasn't too big and gashy to be.
It was big, but I thought, I just kind of put that off as as emergency type trach. They don't always, when they do an emergency trach like that, it's just a matter of cutting.
Yeah, just to get access.
Yeah.
But did you see what the condition was of the windpipe underneath?
No, I did not.
I see. So you wouldn't know if it was lacerated badly or anything like that. I see. But besides so the paperwork was unusual. If you were going to tick off a couple of other things that were unusual that struck you and left you with this impression, what would they be?
Well, the unusual type thing was, all right, the other one would be the probing of the wound in the back of the neck.
Yeah.
The fact, the description of the head wound.
Yeah.
That'll always be a controversy as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. What else?
Really, I can't think.
What was it about the probing that you find sticks out in your mind as something that's,
Probing?
Yeah, the probing of the back wound or the neck wound.
What sticks out in my mind is the fact is that Commander Hughes put his little finger in, and said that he could probe the bottom of it with his finger, which would mean to me it's very shallow. The other thing was that I remember looking inside the chest cavity, and I could see the probe through the pleura, but there was no exit into the chest cavity that I ever saw.
Explain that to me. You could see the probe that he was putting in the wound. Right. You could see it through the pleura.
Well, you could actually see where it was making an indentation.
Okay, an indentation on the pleura.
Right. Where it was pushing the skin up.
Okay, but and what was missing from your standpoint? It was indenting the pleura, but you couldn't see what?
There was no entry into the chest cavity.
In other words, so therefore, the theory that something went in there and came out the front was contradicted by what you could see in terms of what they were probing for.
Well, there would have been no way that one could have exited in the front because it would have been low in the chest cavity.
I see. So with your own eyes, you saw them probing a trajectory which they later concluded existed, but at the time you could see from the angle of the probe.
Well, it would have had to have been in the aorta, somewhere around the junction of the descending aorta, which would also have been in the junction of the bronchus and the lungs, and there would have been, there would have most definitely been damage to that area, and it would, if it exited anywhere, it would have exited out, in the chest cavity somewhere around, say, the lower end of the sternum.
I see. Let me say, did you hear Hume say he could feel the bottom of it with his finger?
Yes, I did.
I see. You actually heard him.
That's my recollection. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Incidentally, when Andy, where do you stand on the issue of how high that little entry wound in the back is? A back wound or a neck wound? I mean, I suppose you have a position on it.
Well, I feel like it was about. It was below his collar line. Okay.
Yeah.
Right at the bottom of his collar line.
Right.
Which is the best way that I could describe it. Okay.
Yeah. Sure. So that's clothing. I mean, you would say it's above the shoulder blade, or?
Well, actually, that would probably be. It would probably be directly in line, right below the. I guess it would be right below his collar line.
Yeah. In other words, when you first saw it, would you have called it a back wound or a neck wound?
I would have probably said that is a well, it would be right there at the junction, whether it be a back or a neck wound.
I see.
You know, I think that would be the option that they're looking at. And as I said before, I would have probably said neck. It was in the back of the neck.
I see. Let me ask you, when Purdy showed you stuff down there, and he showed you that, he said, would you be surprised, he said that to you, would you be surprised to know that this little entry hole at the top of the head?
Yes.
What did he show you the autopsy photograph of that little hole?
No, he did not. He showed me a drawing of that little hole.
You mean an anatomic?
Artist's conception.
Artist's conception, right. Well, you know, they worked off the original photographs when they made those. They're pretty accurate. I mean, they're accurate representations of what those pictures are supposed to show,
Right.
which are locked up and everything. But, and what was your reaction? I mean, what did you tell him?
I told him, yes, I would be very surprised, and then he showed it to him.
And what did he say then?
Nothing. He never made any comments. See, he was very objective about the whole situation.
Yeah.
He never made any positive and negative comments at all on the questions were presented, opinions were asked, basically the same thing that's being described here.
Yeah.
And there were never any comments as to correlation of what I felt like I saw as opposed to what Paul felt like he saw and
Right.
things of that nature.
Let me ask you, when you said to me before that you thought there was somebody had preconceived notions that night, as you were standing there in the room watching this examination go forward, what gave you that feeling that people had preconceived notions?
I think it was the discussions, discussions in the sense that, this would be found and somebody would say, well, no, that's not right, it can't be, that type of thing. That's
Yeah.
not possible. To the point that at times I felt like that Dr. Humes and Commander Boswell were getting irritated, or sometimes I even felt like, and this was my opinion, and I don't know how they felt about it, that they might have even been someone was chastised.
And okay, so you know, you feel they're the downstream, they're victims of this pressure, or are they the people who are putting on the pressure?
I think that downstream they were victims of the pressure.
Okay, so who is in the room who is the irritating force in the room that's putting this pressure on?
There were several people. Most of them that I can remember are civilians. And as I said before, civilians are just totally a blank to me because, I don't know what they were or who they were or what their functions were or anything of this nature. There were a lot of discussions among civilians themselves as to what had happened, where the bullets had come from, discussions of things of that nature. And to be quite honest, I was not at that time concentrated on any of these conversations. I was purely interested in what was going on, to the fact is that I was there to hand them instruments, do odd things for them, get them things, make sure specimen bottles are there, take down weights, things of that nature.
Let me ask you, do you remember Surgeon General Edward Kenny being in the room?
Yes, the Surgeon General was there.
I see. Okay, so because I'm trying to get down the number of high-ranking people there. Okay, another one's Galloway. He's he's fairly high.
Yes, he was the commander of the hospital.
Yeah, and he's a doctor too.
Yes.
And Stover's there. So, I mean, when we're talking about, was Kenny giving any such instructions or saying things like, there were only 3 shots or they both come from behind or anything like that?
No, as far as I can remember, he was not down on the floor. He was in the gallery.
Kenny.
Right.
And what about Galloway?
He was in the gallery.
In the gallery.
Right.
So, in other words, in terms of people looking over Humes and Boswell's shoulders, it would be civilian people.
Well, they were not. Okay, now, have you ever been in the morgue?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. The gallery is not, it was possible that they could see what was going on from the gallery, okay?
Right.
Because we were using the front autopsy table.
Right.
Okay. Captain Stover was down on the floor with us.
Right.
And when I say gallery, it's not a fancy gallery or anything.
Oh, I know. It's just a few rows. I've been in
Right.
there. Yeah.
Okay. He was down there with us because I remember that, they had brought some sandwiches in, and I had been staying there quite some time, and he told me that, go on and eat. That,
Yeah.
This was about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I guess, whenever the autopsy, when the undertaker started his thing.
Yeah. I see. But, in terms of the people giving orders or influencing the conclusions or something like that, you'd say it would be civilians.
Yes, I would think it was civilian. The impression I got that, that Admiral Galloway was there because he was the commander of the hospital.
Right.
I got the impression that Surgeon General was there because he was a Surgeon General and he came through. Okay.
Right.
It, you know, and I was told, and to be quite honest, I was told that night that his brothers came in.
Whose brothers?
Kennedy.
Well, okay, but no, that's not. I don't know. We have no record of that.
Well, see, that's something that I don't know either because I don't remember seeing him there.
Right. Nobody. That's right. The FBI says specifically that they're never come into the room. They're always on the 17th floor.
Well, I knew that his wife was on 7th.
Yeah. Right. And they phoned to this Air Force man, McHugh, who's the family representative in the room.
Well, the only thing is, like I said, I was told that his brother,
Okay.
that Bobby Kennedy did come in, but then I was, you know, but I didn't see him. Okay.
Right. Sure. Sure. Okay. So then we're talking about the pressures and the tensions. Then there's some civilians. Now the only civilians, because this is, tell me if I'm wrong. I've got 2 FBI men there, and they seem to be just note takers, to tell you the truth. And there's 3 Secret Service guys, 2 of them whom they were all in Dallas with him that afternoon. Do you remember those 3 guys?
There were only 5 people, civilians there?
Well, no, this is why I'm asking you, Curtis, because that's all we have in the records, to be very honest with you.
No, that's not true.
Okay, tell me how many, suppose you were making an estimate. How many
Well, okay, I couldn't give you a definite number, but I know that gallery was filled most of the time.
with civilians?
Basically civilians. I remember there were a couple of people taking notes, and there was some, I thought there was some controversy about their taking notes
Like what?
from another group of civilians standing there.
And what did they say?
That was just a mumble type thing over there. You know, there was no note taking. I think I also thought that okay, I remember this thing with the captain. I think it was the fact is that the captain of the honor guard was also taking notes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that there was either that's what the rumble with him was, whether it was, you know, don't do that or give them to me or whatever.
Okay, but in terms of the actual pressures at the autopsy table, I would think that would be kind of shoulder to shoulder, wouldn't it? I mean, what would you be able to call out from the gallery? Hey, you're supposed to. That couldn't be you. You know.
Well, okay, the gallery with Humes, and Humes would, you know, the size of man he would have covered the span from that table to that gallery. You know, and then also whenever the thing was going on with the bullets and so forth, there were some rumblings. You know, the gallery is not that far away.
Yeah, and there were rumblings. What do you mean?
In the gallery as to, well, that's not possible, you know, and almost to the point where, as I said before, there was, I felt like that maybe these people were looking very critically at Dr. Boswell and Randy Humes because they couldn't find it, because they were so positive that it was there.
Curtis, I got to ask you this because the way the picture I've been in that room. The picture you're painting a little bit is this idea that in the gallery are sitting these people. Listen, listen, between you and me, I personally think he was shot in the head from the front too. But the thing is, when you come to grips with this as a researcher, here's Humes looking at the body, and he's got this big hole in the head. And I mean, are people in the gallery actually mumbling, or not mumbling, but actually yelling out like?
No, they're not yelling.
Okay, they're not yelling.
No.
So how is information going from whoever these people are to Humes so that it's influencing what he will write about?
Well, Humes is you know, is constantly in contact with the people that are standing. These people are standing in the gallery.
Standing in the gallery.
Yeah, they're standing down next to, you know,
right.
a little area there, and Humes is, you know, has conversations with them.
Okay, so is Humes articulating his analysis as he goes along?
Yes, but not in a tone that I could, you know, I'm not hearing these conversations in a sense. I'm just going by.
Excuse me, 1 minute. I'm on the phone. Yes.
Okay, I'm not hearing the conversations, and you know, in the sense that I'm paying attention to. I'm just catching, you know.
Yeah, but I'm saying like.
And attitudes and things of this nature.
Right. Well, okay. When we watch a program like Quincy, we know that sometimes these forensic pathologists speak into a tape recorder, or in some way indicate, you know, that the victim is a white male, Caucasian, and they go on and they talk about what they're finding. So how would Humes? Let's say Humes indicates that he has an exit wound at the back of the head. I mean, is someone saying, you know, that can't be the buildings behind the body or something like that, and that, you know, shots had to come from, you know?
Well, I'm thinking that. Well, what I'm saying is that when he is saying whenever he's coming up with conclusions, like with the X-rays, okay?
Right.
The X-rays were taken.
Right.
And then when they came back, you know, it was kind of a pressure thing. You know, you can't be right. Take them again.
Right.
You know, and then they were taken again. And
right.
They were taken again.
Right.
You know, and that type of thing. You know, and expression of the head and so forth. As far as I know, and I don't remember if there was any conclusion at that night, as I said before, whether he was shot from behind, in front. You know, whatever.
Yeah.
The only thing was that the only expression that came out was the fact is that they were trying to say that the wound that entered from the back came out through the front of the neck was the one that hit whoever, Conley or somebody.
Were they saying that in the room that night?
They were trying to see if that was feasible or not. But again, that was just a that was the type of thing. It wasn't a conclusion type thing, and it wasn't something that I was saying very close, because I guess I had already concluded after the probing of the chest and so forth that was not an exit wound, that was in reality a trach.
Right.
And it would have made sense, because that would have been the very first thing they would have done when he got to the hospital was trach.
Sure, but are you aware of the fact, though, that when they did the trach over a bullet wound?
No, I was not, because you're the first person who's ever discussed that.
Wait a second. No kidding. You didn't know this.
No, I didn't.
Okay, no. Well, let me. I think I should tell you this. All the medical reports from Dallas indicate that when he came in, there's a wound in the neck. Now, is a controversy as to whether it's an entry or an exit wound or whatever. But there is a wound in the neck, and the doctor makes his trach through that wound. That's in all the reports written in their own handwriting that afternoon in Dallas.
Okay, my question would be, why would you make a trach through a wound?
Oh, they said because the wound happened to be located at exactly the spot where they normally do a trach.
Okay, that's true, but the fact is that if that was if that was true, the bullet would have destroyed the trach so badly that an airway there would not have done anything. He would have been aspirating his own blood.
Maybe. You've taken courses in this stuff, and you may well be right. But I'm saying there is a little bullet hole there, and I'll tell you what size it is. They measured it, and they said it was 3 to 5 millimeters. It was about a quarter inch across. And in order to get control of the airway, they first put an endotracheal tube in, but that wasn't good enough. So then Dr. Malcolm Perry, listen, you didn't know that when you know that they did a trach, but you had not known until today that they did a trach over a bullet wound.
No, I did not.
Oh yeah, well that's discussed you can read the actual handwritten reports of the doctors from Dallas, and of course that's a major fact in the Warren report. So their attitude is, okay, they've got a hole in the back of the collar line, whatever, and they've got this hole that they destroyed in the course of making a trach. And so since the x-rays show no bullet, their reasoning goes it must have gone out the front since it's not in the body. Now, I'll pose another question to you. Is it possible that a bullet had entered at the front, which is what the Dallas doctors said, in the throat, and that someone had removed the bullet from the body?
It could have been, but the thing about it is that, if that was true, why was there not a resection of the throat area at the autopsy?
What do you mean by that?
Chest cavity was open.
Right.
And I might have missed it, but I don't really think so. The only exploration of the trach would have, it would have been feasible, as far as I'm concerned, to have dissected the area at the trach, to determine, where the bullet went.
Well, Humes describes at some length in his testimony and in his report this very bruised area atop the right lung. Do you remember anything about that?
No, I don't.
Because he describes that in quite some detail. And so my question was, had a bullet been removed that was fired from the front? And I'm not saying at the autopsy, but maybe even before the autopsy. I was just curious if anybody had any suspicions like that as they watched this autopsy go forward.
No. There were no bullet wounds. There were no bullets. There were no fragments found, as far as I know, from the x-rays and so forth in the chest cavity at all.
But nobody talked about the puzzlement over the fact that there ought to be, but there wasn't.
Yeah, there were a lot of people who said that it had to be, but I found out but we found out on x-ray that there were no fragments anywhere. We did not find it whenever we opened the chest cavity.
Yeah.
There, as far as I can remember, there was not an extensive amount of blood in the chest cavity, which was not abnormal, because that question was asked. Of course, whenever you dissect something, you're going to get some blood in the chest cavity, but there was not an excessive amount.
Yeah.
Also, there should have been, a bruise over the right lung.
It's not should have been. Humes describes in his autopsy report written that weekend a bruise atop the right lung, right? He goes into it at some length, and the bruised neck muscles. He talks about bruised neck muscles and a bruise the right apical pleura. The pleura, right, the apical portion of the right lung.
Talking about a bruise.
Oh, yeah, 5 centimeters across. He measures it and everything. It's described.
Well, again, like I said, that could have been possibly from the... Well, never mind. That's speculation. The possibility that it could have been from the bullet that entered through the back, okay?
Yeah.
That's possible, because it could have went down to the extent which it was probably in. It would have been in that area, but it never entered the chest cavity. It could have, it could have possibly bruised the lung.
But the point is, you didn't see them examining such a bruise that night?
No, I did not.
Yeah, no, he describes it in some length, and it's a controversial bruise, I might add, but you didn't see him examining it.
No, I did not.
So you left, let me ask you, when you left the room that night, when you went to bed the next morning, you went to bed with the impression that he had been shot in the head from the front. Am I correct?
Yes, from the right side.
So when was the first time, what is it, you picked up a newspaper or heard it on the radio, or how did you first hear, when did you first get clear in your mind that they're saying, A, that he's hit from behind, and B, that that building is located behind the body at the time of the shooting?
Well, I think I probably saw some of it on television the next day, but then, the conclusion that I remember, I don't really remember exact day, time, so forth.
Yeah.
But it happened. And when I found out was, I picked it up probably from the newspaper and so forth, and then there was no talk about it, at school, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And so forth. But then I started gathering and watching, and I wanted to see what the conclusions of things were, and and I just, whenever it first came out, it was really, it's kind of shocking to me. I guess I accepted it because of the circumstances I was in, and and then all the other things that followed afterwards.
Yeah.
But I didn't accept it as being fact. I just accepted the fact is that probably I felt like that maybe pressure was put on Commander Humes and Dr. Boswell and Dr. Fink or whatever his name was.
Yeah.
To do this type of documentation. I know that I couldn't see any reason that the logbook was brought up and all the paperwork, everything, every scrap of paper, note paper, everything was taken out of the morgue that was related to him and locked up.
Yeah, I got to ask you about that, too. I was going to ask you two things. First, we've written to the National, the St. Louis Record Center, and they are having an impossible time finding the autopsy log. Was it filled out?
No, it was never. The last time I saw the autopsy log was that morning, before it was gathered. Apparently, everything was picked up by some individual. I think it was Commander Humes.
Yeah.
They picked up all the paperwork. They were looking for scrap paper, everything that might have been written on,
Yeah.
They took the autopsy log, even there's, the little tags that we made out for the body,
Yeah.
things of that nature. All of that stuff was taken.
When you say the little tags, what tags do you mean for the...
It was normal procedure to tag a body as it came in on the toe, the elbow, and the wrist.
And they took those tags?
They took those tags.
Okay, so when I write for the log, they claim they can't find... Paul O'Connor said that he made the log entry himself.
Yes, he did.
And he actually filled in the time the body arrived.
He did.
Do you remember that time?
No, I don't remember. The only thing I remember about the time is it was somewhere between 7 and 8, and that's all I can remember.
Do you remember any talk about more than one coffin being used that night? Besides the ceremonial coffin that he's buried in. I'm not talking about that. I mean in terms of the arrival procedure.
No, I don't remember. That's a detail that I never really thought about. I know Paul logged him in and was told, both of us were back there because we had to take the autopsy number. And that was another thing too, is that I later found out that the autopsy number, what we normally did was that we took a stamping type machine,
Yeah.
We stamped the log for a number. We stamped 3 or 4 cards for the number,
Right.
And then those tags were part of the tags that were used to tag the body. I don't remember if we ever put those tags on.
Yeah. But what's the significance of the tags not being on?
Just an abnormal procedure because it was extremely mandatory. Like when we were being taught how to do this, it was the most important thing that was emphasized to us was identification of the body.
Right.
And it was kind of a primordial type sin if you did not tag a body or you didn't get the correct numbers and things of that nature. It's very expensive type.
Sure.
I think so. Plus the fact that we were not allowed to put the name in because the last time I saw the log, as I said, I remember Paul did not put the name in. He started to write it in. They told him not to write it in.
Yeah.
And then...
Who's they? Who told him that?
I don't really know.
Okay, then what happened?
Well, I asked later,
Yeah.
okay? I believe it was the doctor that was on duty that night. Can't remember his name. It wasn't Dr. Dickerson.
Doctor on duty where?
That was on duty in the pathology lab, or upstairs in the lab that night, the duty officer.
Yeah, you mean as a medical doctor?
Right.
Is it Van Heusen?
That might have been. I don't remember. But
Okay.
I asked him later, and he says, no, don't, do what they told you. So, and he didn't stay that long,
Who didn't?
this doctor. He was a lieutenant.
Yeah.
He was an intern, I believe.
And what's the significance of that?
Well, I just remember saying that I asked him, it wasn't filled in, and he told me don't do it. They were told not to, and that's the reason I remember that it never was. And then in the morning, whenever we got ready to leave, the morgue had, or whenever all this was over with, and the body was gone, then, I looked at the morgue, and I remember somebody had written in the upper right-hand square,
Yeah.
just kind of lightly penciled in CNC. And that's the last time I remember seeing the log.
I see. You never saw the log again?
No, I never saw it again.
So in other words, all the log for the whole month you think was just taken out?
Oh, it was longer. It was a year, a couple or so. 'Cause it was a large bound log.
A green log.
Pardon?
Is it a green general issue log?
I believe it was green.
Yeah, because I'm trying to locate it, and they may have it, but so far they can't find it.
Well, now we were told the next morning that all the paperwork and everything from that night was locked up in the safe at Bethesda.
Okay, as of that night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see. So you would say, and that's irregular, obviously, to get the whole log. But they didn't just take out the page. You're saying they took the whole log.
They took the whole log.
Yeah, I guess that's the easy way to do it. What's your personal? I mean, as you watch this thing go forward, if you were investigating this and you were trying to figure out and unravel what was going on, I mean, let's say that there are people in the room who are exerting pressure, but that doesn't explain what happens when he sits down and writes up an autopsy report. So where would the pressure? I mean, would you, if you were looking for where the source of this pressure is, would you focus on Humes as a bad guy, or would you say it goes higher than Humes?
No, I would say it goes much higher than Humes, because I feel like that Humes would have, Humes had no reason to exert any type of pressure, and would not have, knowing Humes, okay?
You know him.
Well, as someone who worked under him, all right?
Sure.
He would not have done this on his own.
Right.
He was too much military, and too concerned with when his next promotion was coming.
Yeah.
This type of thing. He also, I think, that time he was not. I don't know. These are just laboratory stories and so forth. That that he was facing the fact is he at one stage somewhere he might be having to leave because he was being passed over or something of that nature. But again, like I said, those are laboratory stories, and because Humes was not well liked.
Yeah.
As far as the people around him.
Why is that?
Well, I think it was just because he was a, super military type person,
Yeah.
you
When you say super military, do you mean a stickler for detail, or do you mean a very authoritarian?
No, not authoritarian in that sense. I felt like that, anybody that told him he was the type of individual that would do anything anybody that above him told him to do without questioning him. That type of situation, and I felt like probably at this time that's what he did do.
In other words, he was given some kind of orders.
Oh yes, to destroy, whatever, or to turn over this without that, or he may even. My personal feeling is he's probably directed to write the autopsy report.
Well, when you
I now talked while flipping the cassette.
do you mean directed in terms of what conclusions he should come to?
Right.
Well, who would give him direct? I mean, do we then go up this scale one notch to Stover, or do we go up to Galloway? Do we go higher than that? I'm just trying to get a feeling for what you're.
I think my feelings are, the fact is that it would have gone much higher. I feel like that it was probably a direction from someone outside that hospital.
Okay, well let's put it this way. I have had to get together the whole organization chart. So when I look at this, we go up one step from Humes, we're at Stover. We go up from Stover, and we're up to Galloway. And in fact, Canada is Galloway's deputy commanding officer for the medical center. Then we are at Galloway. We go up Galloway, we're up one step. We're then at the we're at BUMED in Washington. Surgeon General Kenny. Do you know anything about him?
No, I don't
So, I mean, but from what you saw, am I correct that from what you saw, Kenny's just a bystander?
I would think so. I don't
Okay, well, look, if you go above Kenny, I'm not saying it doesn't go any higher. I'm just saying if you go above Kenny, Kenny is a bureau chief. Kenny reports directly to the Joint Chiefs. I mean, there's only one clique of officers above Kenny, and you're either with the Joint Chiefs or orders from the White House.
I didn't say that you did.
Oh, I understand that, but I'm just pointing out that that's where you, when you talk about. Well, the reason I say this is that I've had to think about this also, in order to in order to understand the line of authority there, and I was surprised at how short the chain of command is from that autopsy room to either the Joint Chiefs or to the White House. That you only go up 3 or 4 people and bang, you're there.
Right.
And
again, like I say, is that I don't think Humes would most assuredly not have done this on his own. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it could have fallen on his head.
Right.
Okay? He was not the type of individual that would jeopardize his military career.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And trying to please people in the sense that he thought that's what they wanted. Okay.
Yeah.
He was not that type of individual.
Right.
The Surgeon General, I feel like the Surgeon General would probably have. I'm talking about now in military type situations.
Right.
You have to understand is that he would have only done what was directed of him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And as far as anything else goes, I can't really say.
In other words, what you're saying is that, and this is, I'm taking this sort of as guidance to me. I've never been in the military, unfortunately. I read books and go to movies, but I've never had the experience. What you're saying is that if orders came in to down the line, you could bet that humans would follow them.
Oh, certainly, there would have been no question in his mind. I mean, he would have had no alternative.
Okay, the only problem with that, and by the way, I'm sympathetic to this whole idea. The only problem with it is that in the final analysis, we come down to certain questions of anatomy and pictures and x-rays. And so, unless it's a question of interpretation and you can draw any old kind of conclusion, like when Purdy said to you, would you be surprised if there was a hole, blah, 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 what he means is, of course, that the pictures show such a hole, okay? Yeah. So now my question then is, did they simply get a picture of the back of another body's head? Or, and don't think that I mean to be gruesome here, but did someone simply put a little entrance hole in the back of the skull later on that night and take a picture of it?
I don't really. Well, that night I don't think either of those situations occurred.
Okay.
Okay. As far as inflicting a wound, no. It's not. It's just not. Okay. It's not possible. All right. Or at least I don't feel like it's possible.
Okay.
Because that would have been something that had been readily noticed, not by myself, but not only by myself, but by a lot of people, okay?
Yeah.
There were too many people there for that to occur, okay?
Okay.
As far as what we had available in the morgue for those types of pictures, as far as I remember, there wasn't anything.
What do you mean?
Other bodies, okay, available.
Yeah.
That type of.
Well, no, because I want you to rest assured that there are definitely pictures at the National Archives today given to the Kennedy family by the Secret Service which show the hole Andy Purdy's talking about. Now, whether it's fake or not is another question, but they're there.
Well, again, like I said, that's something that I did not know. It's like the hole, the bullet wound, the trach was done over. Okay.
The trach was what?
The wound.
Yeah.
In the front of it.
Right.
Okay. Until today, I was not aware of that.
In other words, you have not kept up with the controversy in terms of reading books and all that.
No, I don't.
Which is good in a way, because that means that your recollection's based on what happened that night.
Right, and I've done it on purpose.
Yeah.
Because I don't. Because the main thing is, I guess, is the fact is that, what the ones that I did see an episode on television, which to me was totally phony.
What's that?
Speculation. I don't know what it was. It's when they were firing the bullets into the gelatin and things of that nature.
Yeah.
That didn't prove anything as far as I was concerned, because you would have to know ballistics and be aware of all this stuff before you could really ascertain as to whether what they were showing you was true or not.
Right. No, that was on CBS. I remember that.
And the thing about it is that after that night, you have to understand that everything that I viewed thereafter, I viewed it with skepticism, because I felt like that what happened with the Warren Commission is that I felt like that if other people were aware of and had the information that I felt like that I had and had drawn the conclusions I had, then the Warren Commission would have been an insult to them.
In other words, if they could see the body the way as you saw it.
Yes.
Well, okay, because when you come down to the bottom line, the body is evidence, right?
Yes.
And the body is sort of like a map of the shooting that actually took place. The body gives you the information as to the direction of those bullets.
Yes, it should.
It should. And so when you're sitting there in the room, you saw definitely that there's one shot below approximately the collar line shot, we'll call it, the next shot, that produced a little hole at the back, and you felt that the head had been damaged by a shot from the front.
Right.
And that's the way you left that night, believing that.
Right. That's the conclusion that I had drawn that night. That was the way that I felt like that when I left that night, that's the way the report would have come out. I felt like that it would have been described that, that the neck wound did not protrude or did not enter into the chest cavity, and that, I was of the conclusion at that time that the report would say that he was shot from the front of the head,
Yeah.
as opposed to from the rear. And my feelings are still that if he'd been shot from the rear of the head, then it would have damaged his face, or it would have taken, at least, no matter what angle he was shot from, it would have taken one of his ears away.
Yeah.
Things of that nature. Something that were very evident, like a missing ear or something of that nature. If he had been shot directly from behind, it would have taken part of his face.
Okay, but in your own opinion as to where the bullet entered, in terms of a frontal shot, you didn't see an entry wound, though. I mean, I'm not saying they didn't see one either, but you didn't, as far as the theory of a shot from the front, you didn't see a frontal entry.
No, because there would have been no entry wound per se. Okay?
You mean it would have...
There would have been no little round hole.
Because why?
Because of the brain cavity. If he had been shot, he had been shot from behind, there would have been a little hole, okay?
Yeah.
With some cracked or fractured skull around that would probably been held together by a scalp.
Yeah.
Okay, the exit wound would have been somewhere in the frontal area, would have been either below chin line area, front. It would have had to either taken part of an eye socket.
Yeah.
Because the eye socket, again, is a hollow area.
Sure. Why do you think there would be no entry hole if he shot from the front, though?
There would be, but at the angle,
Yeah.
The entry hole would have probably only been in one portion of the bone, okay?
Yeah.
It probably would have been maybe a burned area or something of that nature.
Yeah.
Because what would have happened this is speculation on my part. The way that I see the wound is, the fact is that he was shot at an angle.
Yeah.
From the right front.
Right.
Or the right side, okay?
Right.
It would have probably first hit right above the ear, or
Right.
slightly behind the ear. Okay, this would not have made a round hole because it was traveling at that angle.
Right.
It would have fractured and would have destroyed the bone area there and taken it away with him, because from the first impact of the bullet would have either been fragmented, flattened, things of that nature, unless it was an armor piercing type thing.
Well, from the standpoint of geometry, then, you'd say that the little thing you normally call the entry hole would be part of the larger hole that would be created by the hole damage of the bullet.
Yes, and see, this is what I thought they were getting at when I mentioned the thing before about there was speculation of a possible burn of a piece of bone. All right.
Yeah.
This is what I thought they were getting at that time.
Who did this? You mean that night of the autopsy?
Yes, the night of the autopsy.
They saw that?
Well, that was a question, and that, as far as I know, it was never resolved.
What did they? How was it posed that night? Does you remember it?
I think as much as I can remember, it was posed by one of the doctors asking the guy that was supposedly ballistics or the wound expert.
Yeah.
Is this a possible place where the bullet could have burned the bone? Okay.
Burned the bone on entering or exiting?
I assumed it was on entry. There was,
Okay.
and as far as I know, there was never any conclusion drawn.
And what part of where was that spot located on the head he was talking about then?
Now, as far as I can remember, the bone, that part of the bone was separate.
Separate?
Yes.
You mean the part that came in separate?
It was a fragmentation of skin on it and so forth.
And you mean it wasn't on the body?
I think it was right at the skull cavity in that area. Because all the fragments were supposedly brought with the body, okay?
Yeah, how did they come into the room?
I think they came in, as far as I remember, they came in the ones that I saw came into the casket in the head area.
Yeah.
You know, originally, and if I remember correctly now too, is I'm pretty sure he came in the sheet because it was bloody, and there were some fragments there, and they took the sheets too.
Yeah.
Okay. Now where he came in a body bag, and I don't know.
Sure, but I mean, when the pieces of bone came in, because Humes testifies that later in the night he gets pieces of bone. Were you there when anything like that? Did you witness somebody walking in and saying, "Here's a piece of the president's head"?
I don't. There were some things brought in, but I don't know what they were.
That's what I mean. So when you talk about the piece of bone that's burned, when you said this is separate, do you mean that it was not attached to the head, or do you mean that?
No, it was not.
It was not. So was it brought in later, hours later, or are we talking about?
In terms of relative time, I would say it was later on after the autopsy, after the brain had been removed, and that they were trying to piece together pictures. But as I said before, these were discussions that there were no conclusions. They were all speculative type of things that that just kind of popped from here to there and so forth. It was not a conversation that I was attuned to. Okay.
Yeah. Let me tell you, I have a report written by the two FBI agents who were sitting in the gallery, and they write something like this. I could quote it exactly, but I practically know it by heart. This is at the end of the autopsy. Dr. Humes said the pattern was clear, that the president was shot twice, and it says the first bullet entered the rear of the head and blew off the top of the skull. In fact, I could read it to you. But you didn't see anything like that taking place?
No.
Here, I'll read it.
That is something that I definitely would remember.
Yeah, here, I'll read you what they wrote. I mean, I don't know whether it's true or not, but here's what they wrote. They wrote, on the basis of these developments, Dr. Humes stated the pattern was clear, that one bullet had entered the president's back and had worked its way out of the body during external cardiac massage, that's referring to Dallas, and that a second high-velocity bullet had entered the rear of the skull and had fragmentized prior to exit through the top of the skull. That's the FBI reporting what Humes concluded that night.
I did not hear that.
I'm not saying you didn't. I'm just saying this is what they said.
Okay, I did not hear that.
Yeah.
And as I said before, I was there, standing by that table.
Yep.
From the time they started, with the exception of one time I had to go get some specimen bottles, which was back to the main lab.
When did that happen?
That happened right at the beginning of our time.
Specimen bottles?
Yes.
How long were you gone for then?
Probably about 3 or 4 minutes.
Oh, just 3 or 4 minutes.
Yes.
Were you ever there when a long silver bronze heavy 400-pound coffin was brought into the room? Or brought to the room?
I don't remember.
In other words,
It was not brought into the morgue section. It could have been brought into the receiving little room right there by the morgue boxes. But no.
You don't remember such a big coffin?
No, I would have remembered something like that. I think I would.
A 400-pound bronze double hermetically sealed coffin?
No.
With big handles?
No. I don't remember something like that.
So the coffin that you took off the gurney, or that you saw taken off the gurney, you would just say, when I said shipping casket, that rung a bell, or?
Yeah, I would say that's probably what it was.
It's not something you'd bury someone in.
No, well, it might be if, it's important.
I take that back. I know what you mean. It's not something you'd bury your president in.
No, it was not something. As a matter of fact, it was something you would not expect the president to be in. Okay?
Why do you say that?
Because of, let's say the quality of it, or something of that nature.
You mean well, Paul O'Connor described it this way. He said it was the kind of coffin that you use, that if somebody dies in California and you have to ship them to New York, air freight or something like that, that's the kind of box they put them in.
Okay, well, see, I would not have known that. Paul would have known that better, because he, had been situated, or that he had been associated with Fleet Marine Corps and things like that. So he was a corpsman with them, and he would have probably had to participate in something like that. But as far as shipping coffins and things of that nature, I don't know. I do feel like that it was awful clean and simple, so that's possibly what it could have been.
Okay, and you don't remember being asked to leave the room for x-rays for a good hour?
No, I was never out of it.
Okay, no, because here's what I got. And the reason I ask you this is not, I want you to understand why. I'm trying to straighten out these facts. The FBI writes, all personnel, with the exception of medical officers needed in the taking of photographs and x-rays, were requested to leave the room and remain in an adjacent room. Then there's an hour gap, apparently, till 8:15 when everybody's let back in. And I was wondering if you could tell me if you were in that group and where they took them and everything.
No, I was. I was in there. As I said before, I helped place and hold the plates for the X-rays of the head.
Yeah.
And then later on for the chest cavity.
And when you took the x-rays of the head, was the brain still in the head?
I believe so. I believe that was the very beginning. I can't be definitely sure, but I think it was very beginning that we took X-rays, and before the autopsy was started.
Yeah. Let me say something. Paul told me one of the things he said was that the cranial vault was empty, that the brains had been completely blown out. And I said, empty, what do you mean? And he said, empty. He said, except for a little bit of tissue here and there, it was empty.
No, I don't.
Do you have a clear recollection as to whether it was that empty?
No, it was not that empty.
There was some brain tissue in there?
There was brain tissue in there. Yes, there was.
So in other words, you have a recollection of brain being in the head.
Yes, because as I said before, I have a recollection of the brain being infused.
Infused?
Right. For autopsy or for slide readings and so forth for examination later.
I see. And who did the infusion?
I did.
You did it?
Yes.
So you actually remember infusing the president's brain while it's inside the cranial vault?
No, it was not. It was taken out of the cranial vault and then it was infused.
Yeah, okay, but in other words, and there was enough of the brain there to be called a brain?
Yes.
And not just little bits of tissue?
Right.
Okay, I gotta ask you this because I gotta straighten out these conflicts. Here's another thing. He said that he doesn't know what they're talking about when they say there was a brain because he didn't see one. And he does not understand what they wrote the brain report on, because his impression, just like you have your impressions from that night, his impression has always been that there was no brain. It had all been blown out during the shooting.
Okay, let me explain something.
Yeah.
Paul, that night, was busy doing other things.
Yeah.
Like carrying stuff here and there and things of that nature.
Right.
Okay. The normal function is this: one of us stood by and assisted the doctor, and normally underneath, in this situation, like whenever we took the organs out on a normal type of autopsy outside this particular night. Well, some of the doctors, we took the organs out, and they came down and examined them. Some were there and took the organs out, things of that nature. All right.
Right.
The other individual did the odd jobs like labeled specimen jars, paperwork type situation, make sure that we had instruments there.
Right.
Would have been involved in this. That may be. Plus the fact is that when when the baby was admitted to the morgue, Paul was involved in that. When the major or lieutenant colonel or whatever in the Air Force was admitted, he was actually brought in a coffin, okay?
Yeah.
His coffin actually sat in the little entrance room there where we did all the logging and so forth the whole night.
Which coffin is this?
Okay, that's the one that the Air Force officer, I think it was an Air Force officer, was in.
That Air Force officer was brought into the morgue that night?
It was a retired Air Force major colonel or something like that was brought into the morgue.
Right.
And he was taken out. The next morning he was to be buried in Arlington.
Right. And
And Paul would have been doing all this too.
I mean, working with that major?
He would have been, making sure, logging all this information in, logging in the baby that came in stillborn,
Right.
tagging it, things of this nature. So those things entail, as much as 30 to 45 minutes, calling the wards on the procedures and things of that nature.
Right.
So as far as Paul was in and out of the actual area.
Yeah.
I do know that Paul supposedly had some of the information that he had written down. Okay.
Yeah. What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Autopsy number and stuff like that.
Right. Right.
Date, time.
Yeah.
Which I knew he had that, and knew he had it. He told me the next say he had it.
Yeah.
But I, to be quite frank, didn't want any part of it.
Why is that?
Well, again, like I said, is that I did not have any idea of in the future writing a book or
Yeah.
doing anything of that nature. And another thing too is that there was no way I could have gotten back there to get that type of information. That without. Well, see, the problem was that I was constantly there at that table.
You mean whereas the logbook is located some feet away?
The logbook was located. Okay, you've been in the morgue.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, you know where the refrigerated boxes are.
Yeah, that's near the entrance.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of a little separate room type thing. It comes right into the morgue.
Right.
Okay, the logbook was in there.
Right.
And that's where the tagging and so forth occurred.
Right.
So that would have been it. We were on the front autopsy table.
Well, Paul, another thing, Paul, okay, I can tell is that you guys are now, your exact relationship is that you're married his cousin?
No, he's married to my wife's second cousin.
Okay, he is married to your wife's second cousin.
Right.
That's very distant.
Very.
Did you perform an introduction or something?
Paul and I were in school together, and yes, we did.
Oh, I see, that's very interesting.
We
Well,
introduced him to my wife's cousin.
I see. So the impression I get is that whereas you have different opinion than he does about the validity of the Warren report. Am I correct?
I don't know. Paul and I have never discussed it intentionally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there some reason for that?
Well, there've been a lot of reasons. Like as I said before, I have tried to stay out of this.
Yeah.
I do not. Up until the thing last summer before last.
Right.
I stayed out of it on purpose.
Right.
I was hoping that that I would never be asked about anything, that I would be forgotten in this type of situation. And then after the controversy started again, and the thing on the assassination committee, I wanted to put it down on paper in my words, not so much for anybody else to know it, until maybe sometime later.
Right.
Something of this nature. Really, to say what I wanted to do is I wanted to say what my feelings, was implied, or what my conclusions were before they were ever published from some other source.
Yeah.
And Paul and I, whenever we started the discussions, like I said, either last summer or before, I can't remember exactly. But anyway, when we talked to Purdy and Kelly, they asked me about him. I told them. They went down, they interviewed him. Paul called me. I would not discuss it with Paul on the telephone. And there were things like I did not know what was happening to my telephone.
Yeah. Well, when you say that, you mean you think that somebody might be tapping it this late in the game?
Well, I thought at that time it was possible because I had a friend that was a Bell telephone, and we discussed some ways of finding out, and some of those ways were some of those ways proved to be feasible.
Yeah.
Things like the FM tuning, and I don't know if you're familiar with it, but you can turn the volume down on FM and pick up your receiver and dial a number, and if it comes in, if you find the right frequency, it'll start buzzing.
Yeah. No, I didn't know that.
Well, and things like that. And as you said before, I did not want to get involved in it. I insisted that we meet someplace. They wanted to come out to my home. I said, no, I want to meet somewhere else. So I insisted we meet in Dad Cochran's office. The secretary took their identification and called to verify their identification, and then I discussed it with them.
Yeah. Do you think there's anything that you told them that you would, that you have? I'm just kind of getting a range of what your own suspicions and fears were. Was there anything you talked about to them that you and I haven't discussed?
No, not really.
So the range of your suspicions, I think I have a fairly accurate feeling for what the experience you had was. Am I correct? You think that pretty much that this feeling of having seen it happen one way and then watching history unfold another way?
Certainly, and the thing about it was that that put me in a very skeptical position, as to what my future might be, and and things of that nature. I just, as I said before, the thing about it is that I had almost wished that I had not been there.
Yeah.
And because it has put some very real doubts and credibility questions to, what I'm being told.
You mean by your government?
Yes.
Well, no, I find that fascinating. I mean, I don't blame you, but I'm just saying, as a participant, I'm somebody who's just outside reading documents and seeing all the conflicts. When did you leave the Navy?
I left the Navy as soon as I could get out there. I left in '66.
Okay, and since then you've been in the medical sales field and also a student?
Yes, I finished college and went back and went to medical school at the University of Mississippi under an MD PhD program for a while. And I left that and went to work with Colton, which is the present company, and then I decided to go back to the same program, and I went back for about a year and a half.
This is in Jackson?
Yes, and that's where the assassination committee people talked to me.
And I'm just curious, one day you were sitting there and you got a letter in the mail or what?
I got a phone call.
Yeah.
I got a phone call one Sunday afternoon, I think it was, from Mr. Purdy.
Right.
And he asked me who I was, identification and so forth, and then he told me that he was a lawyer with the assassination committee and that he was investigating such and such, and that he would like to talk to me.
Yeah.
And, at that time, there was no way that I could identify him on the telephone.
Right, sure.
And so I told him, that I would be more than happy to talk to him, with proper identification and so forth. And we made the arrangement to meet at the office that I previously discussed with you. And,
Yeah.
and then this Mr. Kelly shows up, and when what really was nice, and whenever they presented their credentials, our identification was that Mr. Purdy had a card with his name written on it, and Mr. Kelly had a badge, which the secretary did call and checked out, checked the identification and so forth through them. She said that it wasn't bank and so forth. So we had a conversation. We went in to the office. We sat down. We talked. I guess about 3.5 hours, and then we went over to the law library, and the continuing questions were, have you ever seen this, or would you be surprised at this? Things, is this your handwriting? That type of stuff.
Yeah.
And as I said before, the handwriting, boy, it looks like my handwriting, as far as I'm concerned. The discrepancy between the two forms that I felt like I had seen, the one that was actually presented, you really can't say anything because the one that's presented there has handwriting that looks like my handwriting.
Right.
That type of situation.
Yeah.
And then the other discrepancy was the fact is that when they told me that there was a bullet hole there, again, that's not even consistent with what the FBI's report says that Hume said, because if from what I'm gathering is that Hume is saying that it entered at the lower base of the skull and came out the top of the skull.
That's correct. That's correct.
Then there would be no little round hole at the top of the skull.
Oh, of course not. No, I understand. I'm aware of all this. Yep, I sure am.
So, again, like I said, the inconsistencies and so forth, I don't feel like that there will ever be, I don't think that the controversy will ever be settled, okay?
Yeah.
That type of stuff.
Well, let me. You went.
I now talk about flipping to tape 5C.
That John F. Kennedy had been caught in a crossfire, obviously.
Yes, to be quite honest with you, I felt like that the bullet that had really caused the death was the one, of course, the head wound.
Yeah.
And I felt like that the head wound itself had come from the front.
Okay, so yeah, go on. I don't want to cut you off.
I felt like that possibly, the wound in the back of the neck. I don't know if I came to the conclusion later, or since I knew more about it, was possibly the bullet that was found supposedly by the stretcher or on the stretcher in Dallas.
Yeah. Well, did you tell Purdy this, by the way, that you thought from what you saw that night looking at the cadaver that the president had been shot in the head from the front?
Well, they were not really interested, to be quite frank,
Be frank, yeah.
as to what my opinions were.
Yeah.
It was all a matter of, we're going to ask you these questions, or I felt that it was, we're going to ask you these questions, you answer them, to your knowledge, and, that's all I want. And, there was never an opinion or any...
Yeah, but Curtis, I realize now more about you because, a guy takes an MD, PhD program. You're no slouch. You really have a lot of schooling. And you probably know much more anatomy than Andy Purdy will ever dream of. You probably forgotten more than he ever learned. You know what I mean?
Well, see, I also had a question from Kelly. He asked me a question about, where's the occipital? And those type of things. And a lot of it I felt might, under other circumstances, might have been intimidating. I'll be quite honest, I did feel a little intimidated.
You felt intimidated by them?
Yes, by talking to them, because there was no, they seemed to only want me to answer their questions.
Yeah. So anyway, to make a long story short, did you ever sit down and say, hey, look, guys, I'm answering your questions, but I think you should know that night, here's what I thought?
Well, that's like, no. Every time I would get into that avenue, Mr. Kelly would kind of change the conversation back to, force the conversation back. And as a matter of fact, most of the questions that I answered were asked by him.
Okay. Did they take notes or a steno there or what?
No, there was nobody in the room but the three of us, and I think Kelly was taking some notes.
So in other words, they did not have a tape recorded situation or a steno.
As far as I remember, no. I would remember a tape recording.
Yeah. Okay. And also, in the 15 years since then, you never ran across a reporter or somebody who was friendly with you, who might know your family, where you could sit down and have a long feature story which says, Jackson, Mississippi man remembers it differently or something like that.
No.
You never did that.
No.
Did you ever dictate or type up such a thing for your own file, which has an early date on it?
No, I have not.
I see.
And as I said before, I did this on purpose, okay?
Yeah.
I did not want any records, any files. I did not want any notes, and, because they specifically asked me, at least 3 times did I have any notes.
Who they be in the House committee?
Yes.
Yeah. And you didn't want to create any.
Well, no, I did not. I did not want any notes. I did not even want to know what the autopsy number was when Paul tried to give me.
Yeah. No, but on the other hand, you said to me before that you actually have thought about going to a hypnotist to see if you can get your recollections, sharper or whatever.
That's at this time.
Yeah, at this time. Are you contemplating what do you call it, sitting down and creating a memo to your file, or I don't know, letter to yourself or something?
Yes.
To do that?
Yes, I like I said, I've been contemplating that since I talked to the assassination.
Yeah. No, because I think, I can only give you my opinion, having interviewed a lot of people, that I don't know what the technical details are of the law, but I know for a fact that for all practical purposes, you're out of the jurisdiction of the military, and that if you have anything valuable in your recollections, when I say valuable, if your recollections have a value, and I think they do, that you should just, when time permits, sit down and I don't think you should be afraid anymore, because there's so many people that take issue with the official version, including Dallas doctors, who sometimes I happen to know this because of our research here. They'll go and they'll give a story to the local reporter, and it'll be a big headline story in the Dallas Morning News or the Times Herald, like when those photographs of the back of the head that Andy Purdy was talking about, they were shown to these doctors, okay, and they're squawking that that's not the way they remember the president's head, okay? And there's stuff like that appearing in Dallas the last few months, okay?
I wasn't aware of that either.
Yeah, no, it's happening. So if you have a contribution that you want to make to the historical record, there's absolutely nothing wrong, and I don't think you should feel afraid of doing it. I just, it's not 1963 anymore, and even though there may have been a lot of hanky-panky, you are one of, a handful of people in the world who were in the room. So it's you.
See, again, too, this is like I'm saying, is that right now, identification. It's a type of situation. I would like to sit down and tell someone the way that I felt, the things that I saw. I don't feel like that I have the journalistic ability to put that into words effectively.
Yeah.
Another thing too is that when I do that, I would like to be fairly sure that some of the controversial areas that I feel that that I'm going into that might not exist from some other place that I've worked in.
What do you mean by that?
Well, like the thing that seemed to be very important to Purdy and Kelly was the fact is that the form, the autopsy form that I remember and the autopsy form that supposedly is the one that was published and so forth were different.
Yeah.
Okay, that puts questions in my mind because again, it's 15 years ago. It is possible that maybe when I worked at Bethesda or when I worked at the Naval Hospital in Philadelphia or possibly when I worked at the University of Mississippi, doing autopsies, that maybe one of their forms were similar.
Yeah.
The one that I remember as opposed to the one that actually was there.
Yeah.
The thing that you just said about Dr. Boswell saying there were two face sheets,
Yeah.
I think that might be inclined to reinforce my feelings.
Right.
Things of that nature. But I over the past years I've heard some reports. As I said, I think on television that night they said that Dr. Humes had burned some of the autopsy paperwork. And
That's right. He filed a certificate in which he says he did that.
yeah, things of that nature. So, again, as I said, all these things reinforce my feelings and my opinions and the conclusions that I came about before I ever read these things.
Yeah.
I don't feel like that my opinions and so forth have been changed significantly by all these reports. My conclusions haven't been changed. Some of the things have been reinforced by just little things like that.
Yeah. Oh no, I agree with you. I think that my attitude, my philosophy, if I were in your shoes, would be better late than never. And I would just sit down and instead of writing conclusions, I would just write as if you were writing an extremely detailed, what I call letter to mother. Just an extremely detailed, everything you can remember, throw it in. Even if you just number the paragraphs and they're out of order because as you're writing paragraph 15, you remember, there's something I wanted to put after paragraph 3. Just everything that you can, in other words, pick your memory clean. If you can, and just put it, because it'll be better to have it in 1979 than in 1985. I mean, it's always a little better to do it earlier, but I understand why you were frightened then. I mean, I don't blame you. I mean, I imagine it would be a very traumatic experience to see something so important one way and then read about it in the newspapers another way. I mean, that's a very unusual view to have. I mean, we all have experienced the controversy about this assassination from the standpoint of books and articles, but you are a person who lived a piece of it.
Well, again, as I said, I have purposely avoided this type of thing up until I felt like what I would do is wait until, I wanted to kind of at the same time the conclusion from the assassination committee was being written.
Yeah.
And brought out in the same time, writing my own conclusion.
Yeah.
And then at the end, that's at least I'd have it here, and that wouldn't be there.
Yeah. Well, for your information, in the report they published, they show this picture of the back of the head, and except for this tiny little bullet hole near the crown of the head at the top,
Right.
it is intact.
No, that is totally, there's no possible way. Okay. It's not possible.
Because you saw it with a hole.
Yeah. I guess you would call it a hole.
Or a wound.
Yeah. But again, that's not possible. Okay. That same, is that the same artist's conception that was in the Warren Commission?
No. This is different. This is a far superior one because it's not using the word artist conception doesn't do this justice. They actually commissioned a medical artist to sit down with the original, what they call the original photographs of the body, which are at the National Archives under the seal there.
But there was a medical illustrator who was a civilian that was there that night.
Oh, really? Who was that?
I don't know him.
And what was he doing?
He was an older man. I don't really know. I had heard later that he had, and this was again I can't follow up, but I had heard before I left Bethesda that he had been dismissed because he had sold some of the pictures to Look or Life magazine, something like that, some of the illustrations.
Huh. No, I don't know of any such incident. I must.
Well, I don't either. But again, too, there was a man there. He was a civilian.
Yeah.
He was I can pretty well describe him. He was kind of I would say he was probably about 5'8" 5'9", 5'10",
Yeah.
kind of heavy, older man. I
Yeah.
would say he was probably in his late 40s or early 50s.
Yeah.
He worked in medical illustration downstairs.
And was he doing illustrating for them?
He was there.
I mean, did he have a scratch pad there and everything?
I don't really know.
Did you know the photographer John Stringer?
No, I did not.
Did you know a guy named Fitzer? Who was in the I don't know what he was in. He was in something connected with the audiovisual of Bethesda.
Okay, was he supposedly enlisted?
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure.
See, because the only thing is that right now I can only remember 3 enlisted people in there that night.
Who were they?
The guy who was taking the X-rays, myself, and Paul. Unless.
Oh, I see. I mean, you don't remember the name. If I gave you the names of the X-ray men, would you wouldn't recognize?
No, like I said, I was a student there. Out of just the way the military runs their school, we were totally directed. I lived off base. I lived in Bethesda, in Gaithersburg, Maryland.
Yeah.
I was married. I only came in for school, and I did not know anyone outside those departments, outside the laboratory department. And very few of people that I worked with that were techs already there did I remember that many of their names, other than the ones who were directly responsible for my class.
By the way, how did you end up at Bethesda? I mean, you enlisted in the Navy at what age?
I was 19.
And you enlisted.
Right.
And then how did you end up at Bethesda?
I just, I went into boot camp. I was going to go to aviation cadet school. It turned out I was colorblind. And they asked me what I wanted to do, and I had intended to get out of the military and go to medical school and tell them I wanted to be a hospital foreman. So they sent me to, this was in San Diego.
Yeah.
They sent me to Balboa Naval School there to be a hospital foreman. I went from there to Cecil Field, Florida, and I was working for a captain there that liked me, and he wanted me to go to lab school. And he put me in for lab school. I told him the only place I would go would be Bethesda because that was the best school they had. And he personally got the orders and so forth. I went to Bethesda.
Huh. Wait a second. I have the name here. I can get it. Just give me 1 second. I have the name of the medical illustrator, I think. I'll get it for you. Humes mentions it here in his testimony. Is Rydberg? H.A. Rydberg. Did you know him?
No.
Yeah.
I would not know him by name.
Yeah.
I just knew who he was. Because, it's kind of, as I said before, it struck me that there were only 3 enlisted people there on this one committee that were associated with the hospital. Okay? And I don't remember seeing him I just remember seeing him in there.
Yeah.
And I don't remember seeing him for any length of time.
Well, the man, yeah. Okay, but you don't know if he was making any pictures or anything.
No, I don't know if he was drawing.
Well, when Purdy did his report, he got together a whole list of people who were in the room. And I'll tell you, let's see, besides you, the X-ray techs were named Reed and Custer. I don't know if you know them.
I only saw one X-ray tech that was predominant, all right?
Yeah.
He was the guy that was taking the X-ray.
Right.
He was by himself. Now, he may have...
He was what, by himself?
Yeah, he might have had a student that came in with him, but he did not stay for any length of time.
Yeah, right.
Because, as I said before, myself and, and the doctors, Dr. Boston and so forth, were helping hold the plate
Right.
for him to take lateral and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Obliques. And, we were helping move the body to put the plates underneath because it was a portable X-ray machine that was in the laboratory, was in the morgue itself.
Right.
He did not bring it in.
But I see, yeah.
And
Well,
another thing maybe I can remember too. I think that when he left to develop those X-rays, he had an escort with him.
yeah. Well, that makes sense, doesn't it? Or
Yeah, yes, it does. But I'm saying that may be one of the ways to check. As far as another X-ray tech, I don't know. Unless he was a student or something that came by to do this and that and so forth. But being in the room itself, my memory says no.
yeah. By the way, how do you feel about O'Connor's memory? I mean, all of our memories fade with time and stuff, but how do you feel in general about him? Just normal, or do you have any special feelings about his memory, or what?
I think Paul's probably, he's probably telling me what he thinks he saw.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's what I want to know. If you were going to tell me if I should know anything, I'd want to know. He sounded very, very credible to me.
Yeah, I think my feelings are that he's probably telling you exactly what he feels like he saw. I don't think Paul would. No, Paul would be very credible.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear you say that.
No, I don't.
That gives me a good feeling. That's good. Let's see. I'm just wondering. You said your attitude has changed over the years in terms of you're less frightened now and all the rest.
I'm not saying frightened in the sense that it's just that as far as I would like right now to sit down with someone that has the journalistic skills to sit down and write a report or something of whatever for me. All right.
Yeah.
And with the idea that as soon as it was over with, I would get it. And I could keep it.
Yeah. You mean you mean a narrative?
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
Like as I said before, I'm totally scientific as far as my training goes.
Right.
Things of that nature and so forth. Maybe, but it's just something that I would like to have for myself.
Sure.
And,
well, let me ask you. Maybe I can help a little bit in that because I mean that's what my job is right now is writing, and I'm collecting these different accounts, and I mean I don't know. I ought to think about this because I'm going to have to write a memo to my own files and stuff, and I could think in terms of polishing it up a little bit and making you a copy. I mean, would you be interested?
yes, I would very much.
And the second thing I was going to ask you is I would probably, since you are scientifically trained and everything, want to, I don't know, I probably should write a paragraph about you in this thing and, make it as accurate as possible. Though I must tell you, as a person who does a lot of writing, that from the standpoint of what you witnessed at the Autopsy, I would say the most interesting part of your story, I mean, in terms of interest, I mean, there's lots of details there, is this whole general feeling you had on how you watched that night, and you came away with the impression that the body showed a shot to the head from the front, obviously, and, and that your reaction to watching it go the other way in the official documents. I mean, that's a very interesting story.
It's a realistic thing to me. The fact is that credibility is my feeling of credibility is really just.
Is what?
I said my feeling of credibility is what I've been told. Things that every time because of this, every time that it seems to be something important that affects the nation, and I'm told one way by the government, and I'm skeptical about it.
Yeah.
Because this was probably the most significant thing that has happened in this country in God knows how long.
Sure.
And my feelings are that the people themselves were just, well, to be quite frank, lied to about it.
Yeah.
And for what reason, I have no idea. I don't want to speculate on that. Those type of things. And, if it's happened to something this important, this dramatic. But again, that's outside.
Well, no, but it is part of this. It is part of it. I mean, by the way, were you just curious? I mean, were you where did you stand politically before November 22nd, 1963? I mean, were you a conservative or a liberal, or how would you classify yourself?
I don't really know.
I mean, did you vote for John Kennedy?
No.
You voted for Goldwater.
No.
I mean, excuse me, you voted for Nixon.
I'm 19 years old.
Okay, so you weren't voting.
Right.
I see. But
Actually, at that time I'm probably 21.
Okay.
But I've just turned 21, so I'm not. Also, Jackie and I are moving around. Absentee ballots in my home, so forth.
Sure.
And I didn't start voting until I was probably about 22, 23.
I see.
So I had not voted for anything.
I see. So you would. So I therefore you. I see. I see. So you just were not. Didn't have any.
No.
You didn't have any strong politics one way or the other.
No, I did not.
I see. I see. Incidentally, when did you ever? When was the first time you saw the Zapruder film, the Zapruder movie of the shooting?
The one on TV?
The one that actually shows President Kennedy being struck in the head. Have you seen those pictures?
Uh,
Maybe I should have asked you that first.
no. I the film on television, yes, I've seen it, but I don't remember the first time I saw it.
Well, do you remember, you know the reaction to him, I mean, when he gets struck with that bullet in the head, are you aware of what that shows?
Yes, I see his head go. Well, okay, this is an opinion thing, but I felt like his head actually went back and to the left a little bit, and then
Right.
went forward. And then went forward. Yeah.
You saw that on TV, though.
Yes, and also it looks like to me that whatever, you know, looks like to me that part of the head is moving to the rear.
Well, the whole head snaps back and to the left, yeah.
Yeah, I know, but I mean part of the. Seems like there's an aura or something there. But again, like I said, that was you got to understand that when I saw that, I already had these conclusions before I saw it.
Okay, no, I agree. I understand that. When did you first see it, though? Was it on? It was first shown on national TV in 1975. Did you go to a lecture before that at some university where it might have been shown, or did you see it then on TV?
No, I saw it on TV.
So did you? It was on the Geraldo Rivera show.
I don't know where it was or when I saw it on TV, but I know that I have seen it.
Did you have the reaction when you saw it? My God, that's, you know, that's what I always thought.
Yes. As I said, by that time I was very opinionated. So I looked for the reaction, and that's the reaction I saw.
Yeah.
The film had not been discussed with me, okay?
Yeah.
No pros and cons of the film had ever been discussed before I saw that.
Yeah.
Before I saw it. So it was my opinion, and I'm not even sure that, I think I probably remarked to my wife, you know, that's what happened on the film. His head went back, snapped back, and then he went forward.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
again, as I said, those type of things can kind of hard to be objective about things like that when you have the opinion. Sorry.
Well, I must tell you, I mean, my background, my major at school was physics, and you know, I mean, I'm very impressed by the backward motion.
To me, that again, like so many other things, really strengthened and in my own mind confirmed that.
Yeah.
But I felt when I came out that night, or when I came out the next morning, that was true.
Yeah.
That what my conclusions were with it right.
Right. You know, let me tell you what's happening now. What the problem is now is that there's people like you who were there, and there's other documents, of course, and you know, you might call it the minority case, or not the minority, but the case of the. See, the problem is that Humes and Boswell hold this exalted position from the standpoint of a historian, because they wrote the autopsy report.
They're also MDs.
They're what? MDs, exactly. You've got it. Okay. And so the problem is, of course, that you've got MDs versus enlisted men. You've got MDs versus, well, name it. You know, and that's the problem. And so it's a very disputed autopsy. And of course, now it's compounded by the fact that they've got these photos and X-rays, which, in a sort of sloppy way, support their conclusions. When I say sloppy, it's because it doesn't exactly show the same wounds, but that they describe. But anyway, it does show these two entry wounds in the rear. And
Well, the same thing is, you're telling me that the back of the man, the back of the head is intact, and then you're telling me that Boswell describes a 13, by such and such wound. Well, that's not physically possible. I mean, that 13 by whatever it is.
10 by 17.
10 by 17.
Right.
Okay, that's a large wound.
I told him that. We spoke to him about this, and he tries to slough it off. And as far as the back of the head, that being intact, that's what the pictures show. Now, that's why many people now suspect, and there's been an article in the Washington Post that these pictures may be forgeries. Of course, you get into a pretty big series of allegations regarding forgery, which I'm sympathetic to, but I'm just saying that it's a very big controversy is brewing over the horizon in terms of what's going to eventually happen with this.
Well, another thing you look at it too is that both Humes and Boswell's retired.
Yeah.
So he is still retired military, and the military have a very large strength.
Yeah.
Which is his pension.
Yeah.
And his career, and so forth. Humes, I guess Humes is full captain.
But he's just a private citizen again. He's in the Yeah, he runs a lab in Detroit or something.
So he's also retired.
Right.
You know, and retired captain probably makes $2,000 or $3,000 a month.
Right.
So that's a very large string, okay?
Sure.
And you and I both know that anytime they want to clip that string, they can do it.
Oh yeah.
And so, you know, as far as credibility goes there, and as far as historians go, you know, I think all of that should be looked at too. The fact is that they are retired military, that they were military when this was happening, you know, and somebody should look very closely at the organization of the military.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you that, you know, the whole case boils down to this business of an entry wound at the rear of the head in terms of the direction of the shot which caused the damage to the head. And that night, forgetting what the pictures show, because that's another problem, whether they're phony, but that night, I mean, he talks about this wound at the level, at the bottom of the back of the head, at the external occipital protuberance.
Okay.
Were you close enough to the head to have seen such a hole if it existed?
Certainly.
A little, what they call, let's just, to use rough language, the little hole beneath the big hole. That's what it's called constantly, this little tiny entry wound in the occiput that they say is there.
I should have been able to see it.
You would have seen it.
Yes.
Well,
because first of all, I would have been able to see it whenever the guy who was sewing him up, okay?
Yeah.
The mortician.
Right.
He was doing the cosmetics. We should have been able to see it then because the cavity was empty. They put the mortar or the plaster stuff in and so forth, and they sewed the hair very carefully around what they were until they came to the place and they tried to fit the bone. Okay?
Right.
That would have been very prominent because it would have been, well, you know, that should have shown. It's not a feasible thing anyway, because even if it did at that angle, it would have still been, you know, his head would have had to been forward, right?
Would have had been what?
Would have had to been forward.
Yeah.
In order for the trajectory that, or for to say that what they're saying happened, he would have had to have already bent forward and would have had to been shot, you know, at the occipital protuberance here, and it would have had to come out at the top, according to the drawings. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That would, with the, you know, that would not have occurred, and he knows that would have not occurred.
He being?
Because as it entered,
yeah,
you know, it would not have made a neat little hole, and then made a extremely large hole so close.
Yeah.
You know, because even if what he's saying is true, it would have torn and rendered the skull so much that it would have certainly broken through to the entrance hole. You know, and again, I don't know. It's all speculation.
No, but I like the way you put it. That if it made a huge big hole near enough to the little hole, it would have just become one. Just the little hole would have just been one tiny little offshoot of the big hole.
That's right, and the exit would have been.
Yeah.
Instead of being a neat little hole the way the artist picture said.
Yeah.
Another thing too is that if there is a hole there on the pictures that they're showing you, you know, and there's an entry and an exit hole and nothing torn away, you know, that is something else that has to be explained. How did an exit hole get that small? And as Paul says, you know, the side of the man's head was gone. In the terms that I described to you, from behind the ear, the occipital, temporal, parietal regions, the neck quarter were actually, it seemed at the very first they were told.
That they were told they what?
Gone.
Yeah. Did you see the occipital or the cerebellum part of the brain?
Trying to remember. No, as far as occipital, the cerebellum was, it was just the right quarter of the brain, the cerebellum, cerebellum. That area was gone, and the thalamus, not the temperature control center that was at the base around the occipital area.
Yeah.
Was also affected too.
Yeah.
Because see, that was, you know, when I saw all these things, and I was remembering that that was probably if that was the reason that his breathing stop that type of thing because that destroys the whole thing.
Well, let me tell you something.
I now talked while flipping to side 2.
Pictures of the brain. Now, I'm going to ask you this. You say, do you have a distinct recollection of whether the cerebellum was damaged?
No, I really don't. All I can remember is, that there was part of the brain that was kind of a jelly type stuff.
Where was the jelly type stuff?
It was kind of like I said, it would be just about in the same area as to where I described the shot. It would have been on the right rear part of the cerebellum.
You mean of the skull? You mean
No, of the brain.
of the brain?
Yeah.
When you say jelly, what would make it into a jelly type stuff?
Something traveling through it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Usually any type of trauma that actually gets into the brain itself because it's soft tissue.
Yeah.
Extremely soft tissue kind of makes it a very mushy jelly type of thing.
Yeah.
But I would say probably it could be from bone fragments, enormous amount of trauma. That was, the whole thing was the impression that I got was the fact is that it had just sort of wiped off that whole quarter type area back there.
Did you have any impression when you first got the body at all? When you were right there when it was unwrapped?
That's what I'm saying. As far as that area, when we put him on the table, unwrapped him, and so forth, at that time, I think Paul and I were the ones down there. There was I think there was a first class that came down that was my section chief or something, and then he left.
Yeah.
And then I think Dr. Boswell came down first.
Yeah.
And then at that time, yes, I got a good look at the head, and that was my impression. Was the fact is that section of his head was gone.
Yeah. Well, anyway, they have a picture of a brain. Okay, it has an intact cerebellum.
Has an intact cerebellum?
Yeah. I'm just telling you what the pictures show.
I would be very much interested in seeing those pictures.
Yeah, they're published. I can get them to you. In fact, why don't you give me your address and I'll make you Xeroxes of them, okay? And if you want prints, we're going to eventually get them for the book, and I can make you a set then. Save you some money, but I can certainly make you Xeroxes now.
Okay, it's Route 5.
Yeah.
Box 850R.
Yeah.
Canyon Lake, Texas. 78130.
Okay, how come the phone company, what is it, Village West Cranes Mill? What's that all about?
That's just where the phone company. We have a private phone company up here.
What does that mean? What do you mean private phone company?
It's a co-op type thing.
Yeah.
And it has that area. I live in a little development area called Village West, and I don't know where the Cranes Mill came from.
Okay, so it's Route 5, Box 850R, Canyon Lake, Texas 78130.
Right.
Yeah, I can make you Xeroxes of that.
Okay. I would appreciate. Like I said, I would like very much to see those.
Yeah. The only thing is that that of course it'll probably have some effect on you, a little bit affecting your memory in the sense that you'll see what they're saying happened, and it would be nice if you got everything from your memory down before you even polluted it with any other data. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Were you there when the funeral home people? Of course you were. When they came in and started their work.
Yes.
That was about midnight.
It was sometime around that.
Did they keep taking pictures of the head during that reconstruction?
Not that I know of.
You don't think they did, as far as you know?
There were. I'll be quite honest. There were very few pictures taken.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, there was a lot of controversy about some of the people who were taking pictures.
Yeah, you told me there was that incident.
And the only person that would have taken any pictures at all would be the guy from Medical Illustration.
Yeah. Well, why was there controversy about the guy that was taking pictures? I mean, what
I
got?
don't know. I really don't know. He was behind me.
And how did you experience it? What did you hear?
I didn't even know what it was until after Kelly had told me.
Oh, no, you didn't know about that till 1970.
No, it was just kind of a scuffle type thing behind me that I didn't pay attention to.
Yeah, that's a major incident. Now everybody wants to know where those pictures are.
No, I didn't know.
Yeah, he was taking.
Until Kelly told me.
Yeah. Well, when the body was first unwrapped, and you say you don't have an independent recollection of a body bag.
No, I don't.
You don't.
No.
But you don't preclude it either.
No, no, I don't. Because it's very possible. If it came in by helicopter, I would say, as you said, possibly that's the way it would have come in.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. We're trying to figure that out now too. But anyway.
Well, it could have been another thing too. Is that the military had they always had this thing about body bags.
What do you mean?
About shipping bodies in body bags.
Yeah.
And since this was a traumatized type of death, a traumatic death by a gunshot or something of that nature, then probably would have stuck it in the body bag. If anybody had been there that was military to ship the body from Dallas there, it's highly likely that it could have been put in the body bag.
Yeah.
But I was under the impression that the body came straight from Dallas to the test.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much everybody's impression. Let me ask you this: the FBI wrote something interesting in one of their reports, and so I got to run this by you. Were you under the impression when you first unwrapped, that body was first unwrapped, were you there when it was actually unwrapped the first time when it was actually exposed to light in that room?
From the time, yes, we took the sheets off.
Okay. Did you ever have any fleeting impression that there had already been some medical procedures performed on the head?
No, I didn't. I'll be quite honest, that would have been something I would have been looking for.
What do you mean?
Well, I did not have any impression that anything had been done to the body.
Okay.
Other than, trach and the tube.
So in other words, you didn't have any impression there was any surgery of the head area?
No, I didn't.
Any previous autopsy surgery?
No.
Got to ask you a question because you're a very intelligent guy who's got all this graduate work behind him and all that. Is your impression that there was no surgery of the head the result of the psychological idea that there ought not to have been, or the result that you can actually clearly recall that it didn't look that way?
I think it's the first. It's a psychological type thing that would, as I said before, it had to be something I was looking for. And I do not clearly recall that there was or was not. I can't honestly say.
Okay, a government agent who was there filed a report that we have that says that when the body was unwrapped, it was apparent that there had been surgery of the head area, namely in the top of the skull. The implication being that they had already surgically removed the skull cap at some prior location before the body got to the Bethesda autopsy room.
No, because my recollection of the head area was the fact is that it was still a kind of a massive entanglement of bone and missing areas and hair and blood, in that area. I would have seen. I think I would have even noticed any type of surgical, because to remove the skull cap takes a striker saw.
Yeah.
And that would have been very evident.
What would have been evident?
If they had removed the skull cap before it came in.
Okay, but on the other hand, it's a fact, is it not, that you didn't have to use a striker saw to get the skull cap off?
No, we didn't remove the skull cap because what was done was the brain was taken out through the hole.
That's right. In other words, the hole was so big
Yes.
that the brain could be removed.
Right.
Okay. Well, Boswell has said this under oath somewhere, that he didn't have to do any surgery to remove the brain. Is it possible that the reason that it was not necessary to do surgery to remove the brain was that surgery had already been performed?
I wouldn't think so, really. The way that I removed the brain was the fact is that, it's possible, but if that's true, then it was very cleverly covered up.
Well, tell me what you mean by that.
Well, the thing about it is that the skull, there would have had to been some hair removed somewhere, whether it be a surgical line. The scalp would have had to been cut, whether it was a surgical line or not.
Right.
As I said before, a striker would have had to been used to cut the skull itself. My remembrance after looking at the head was the fact that it was just a mass of fragmented skull hanging, being kept on by scalp, hair with matted blood, and so forth about it. That's, I don't know what he's basing his conclusion on.
You say it was your impression of the skull, the scalp, that it was a massive, that it was what again? I missed that.
Okay, it's just that my impression at the time was the fact is that it was an extremely large head wound that had some fragments of bone. And, the skull was being kept together, even though it was fractured in areas, around the edges of it by hair and scalp. So, in my opinion, prior surgery, it was, they would have had access to the brain without doing anything.
Unless they made that hole, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that could have been possible too if they had taken, the bone fragments from the area that it was missing, then they would have had access to the brain. But that's that's one of those other things. It's possible, but it's probabilities.
It's probably what?
I said I would feel that it's possible, but you're getting into James Bond type stuff.
Oh, wait a second, James Bond, because why now?
Well, it would have had, it would have had been a very cleverly perpetrated type thing, in the sense that possibly some of the bone fragments that they brought in later could have been removed. They would have had access to the skull, but without anybody's knowledge.
Yeah.
It's feasible that those bone fragments could have been pulled out of that skull.
Right.
But if that's what he's looking at. He could be looking at some other things too. He could be, he could be basing this on the fact is that, some of the bone fragments that were hanging to the scalp, were laid back and showing fresh tissue, that type of thing.
Yeah, well, we're trying to find out what he bases it on, but so far, and I mean, this may sound surprising to you, but so far the implication is, as far as we've been able to determine, is that they're claiming, this person who wrote this claims he got the information directly from Hume's. That's what Hume said at the beginning to him, and then proceeded to do the autopsy and not say anything more about it.
Well, again, like I said, I don't know. I didn't hear the conversation.
You didn't hear anything about pre-autopsy surgery?
No, I did not.
I see. Do you know who it was that sutured up the tracheotomy incision at the front?
No, I don't know who. I really don't know whether it was the mortician or whether it was Dr. Hume. I would assume it would be the mortician because he was the guy who put the body back together.
Yeah.
And he was the one who formed the skull and sutured it as best he could.
Right.
And filled it in. He was the one who sutured the eyelid. He also sutured up the chest cavity and so forth.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
At the same time he was reforming the body.
Yeah.
So I would think that he would be the one who sutured up the tray.
Right. Incidentally, was it a vivid moment when they walked in with extra skull bone, or the skull bone they found? I mean, or is it just something that happened casually?
I think it's just something that happened casually. I remember bringing it in because that, I remember also, trying to fit some extra skull fragments in. I cannot clearly, it did not impress upon me an exact time as to when that came in any type of relatively, or any relative time frame.
Did he say? I see. Did he bring in more than one piece?
I don't really know.
Yeah.
I just know that there were some things brought in. I can't even clearly say that it was bone fragments.
Yeah.
But I do know that there were some things supposedly were found at Dallas on sheets or gurneys or something like that were brought in.
Right.
So, or either maybe it's some things that were brought in with him at the hospital in Dallas. I don't know.
Right. Right. I know we're trying to find out how that stuff got to Bethesda too. As a matter of fact, that's not clear. Well, okay. I think I've asked you everything I wanted to ask you. I'll make you a Xerox copy of those drawings that they published. Okay. And I'll mail them to you, and I'll put a little letter in saying, thanking you for speaking to me. So you'll have a record of my address and phone number, and that I'm with the Macmillan outfit and everything. And what I would like to do is, when time permits, is to write up sort of a narrative for you. I mean, I can sense that you would like to have something like that for your own purposes, and I think you should too. I would almost suggest to you, if you knew a news reporter, I tell you something, any news reporter would really like the chance. I know, I don't mean any, but if you knew someone you were comfortable with who, but maybe you wouldn't be comfortable with having such an article appear. But on the other hand, I don't know. I get the impression you're a little bit, you're one way and then the other way about it.
Well, I don't think I would feel very comfortable by having this on, an interview on a news program.
No, I mean to write it and publish it as a little article, as remembered by, Curtis Jenkins.
Okay, that I might be interested in, but
That's all I mean.
I would not want to. I just, that way it would be a tentative type thing that could be just published to the people who are interested. At least know how I felt and things that I have seen. But again, like I said, I really don't know how to go about doing that. So.
Yeah. You work for a big outfit. You probably travel around quite a bit, don't you, for your company?
Yes.
So you probably get to meet. Am I the first person that's spoken to you outside of the government, those guys from the House Committee?
Yes.
That's amazing to me. I mean, that's really astonishing because your name is in this FBI report. You probably know.
Huh? I didn't know that either.
Yeah, but it's name in it. But I think it's nobody could figure out where you lived. At least I couldn't. Here's the way you're listed. Just J.C. Jenkins.
Right.
And then Purdy found you out from the Defense Department. I guess they must have done a search of their records or something.
Right. I got a letter from the Department of Navy and the Department of Defense.
2 letters?
Yes.
No kidding. And did they say this is to introduce Donald Purdy or something?
No, this was the thing telling me that I could talk to the people on the Assassination Committee. Giving me permission to talk to Purdy or to the Assassination Committee people and tell them whatever I felt like I should tell them.
I see. Was that did that letter get to you before Purdy called you?
No, that was before he called me the second time.
I see. So he called you the first time,
Right.
and then comes in the letter.
And then the letters come in, and then some other gentleman from the House Committee called me and asked me. He read the information I gave him back and asked me did I want to change any of it, or had I, remember something that I felt like I didn't. And of course, the only changing was that one time I felt like the autopsy number had been penciled in,
Yeah.
and then I remembered the stamp. So that was
Right.
the only discrepancy that I.
Well, look, I'll tell you what I'd like to do. Besides writing you a letter and mailing you, I'll make you Xeroxes of those drawings. When I sit down to synthesize what you've told me, if I have any questions, okay, because sometimes you get questions, I'd like to just be able to feel that I could call you back. I wouldn't do it more than once. I would just know if I have any questions. It wouldn't be right away or anything like that. It would be maybe 2 months from now or something.
Your name again?
David Lifton, like Lipton tea, only with an F instead of a P. And I'll write you a letter like in the next day or two to make sure, so you'll have a record of who I am. And then, so I don't get confused, if there's anything, but I see the main lines along which you've talked and everything, and I want to, I've really run by a lot of stuff by you, and I really appreciate that very much.
Well, like I said, I don't mind, from talking with you, I would like to work this out.
Yeah.
At least get it down, in writing or history or whatever.
Yeah.
So, if I can answer or clarify any questions, I'd be more than happy to work.
Well, that's really nice. I really appreciate that, because our Macmillan project is going to be exactly that kind of a project, and it's going to be in all the libraries, And so I would really appreciate that, and we're going to have plenty of dissenting opinion, I can assure you. I mean, I think that it's clear that the autopsy is a very contested document.
Well, it's very controversial to me, so okay.
Thank you very much. I'll write you a little letter. You'll get in the next couple of days.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you very much. Bye.